My, how time does fly. We weren't even in step 2 for that long, it seems. Wow. I guess it does fly when you have fun, and when you do 2 moments at a time. But now summer has to come to an end, and we had to find out what happens in the transitional period. So let's get into it. There was no denying it. Today was the very last day of summer. Tomorrow you head into class. You were excited to go back. Though summer had been fun, you had taken your fill, and now you were longing for fresher excitement. A new school year was full of potential. You got dressed, not envisaging the day before you, but contemplating what lay ahead of you tomorrow. Life was sure going to be different. You had to think of the summer vacation as the norm, but school stretched out for the majority of the year, whereas the summer vacation was just a break in the middle. So, rather be different, it was kind of a return to the normal. What did your normal life really mean? You considered how fondly your moms talked about their summer vacations as kids. You definitely recognized that 1 year, the pattern of school in summer itself would be over for good. It was hard to imagine. You got distracted, one arm still out of his sleeve. You thought it through and put your mind back to the present. This season had brought about plenty of changes of its own, like Kyra's visit, though that too was coming to an end today. You were happy you'd finally gotten the chance to know her. She was interesting to be around. You liked how easy it was to talk to her. You finished dressing, which was good. Cove would be there any moment. You had agreed to see his mom off together. Officially, the plan was that he would come over to bring you round to his house when she was ready to set off. But you knew beforehand you would be hanging out for at least a little while beforehand. Kyra's visit had troubled Cove when it first happened. It had been a sudden change, thanks to Mr. Holden's infamous tendency to surprise people. Once he was able to adjust, he had been in pretty good spirits with her around. It was a relief for everyone. You turned to your desk, where the box containing your accessories resided. A thought struck you like a bolt, and your eyes bored into the box. You wore an anklet for Cove's visit today. You had some nice ones that you hadn't used in a while. You fell one ankle bracelet on. As you threaded the hoop through the clasp, and you had wondered if Cove would spot what you had done, and how he'd react. A cheeky grin grew on your face. The next thought that crossed your mind was, Cove knew your house well enough. You could lounge in your room to wait for him. Oh, where the hell did my mouse go? You made yourself comfortable on your bed. This was where you'd be hanging out, so there wasn't much point of going downstairs just to come straight back up again. It wouldn't be the first, and probably won't be the last time, that Cove brought himself up to your room without you taking him there. A knock at the door broke you out of the idle daydream you'd been having about new classes and using your newly knitted out pencil case. You recognized the sound immediately, different from the cheery tune Ma rapped out when she wanted your attention, or Mom's direct beats, and Elizabeth tended to skip knocking completely. Those knocks were just hard enough to be heard and had an uncommonly long pause in between. They were Cove's. Come in! Cove opened the door, smiling casually as he caught your eye.
Hey.
Hi, Callie. Hi, Cove. You stepped further into the room. With other guests, you might have offered them a seat, but you and Cove were long past those tentative stages of friendship. Your room was as familiar to him as his own. You watched as Cove sat down in your desk chair, preferred spot. He rolled it closer to the bed to make it easier to chat, tweaking the angle so it was fully facing you. Once happy with the position, he leaned in towards you, hands held in his lap. His actions weren't the ones of someone who planned on moving from his spot anytime soon, even though you had an appointment to keep together that day. When is your mom leaving?
Don't worry about it.
We've got some time. She's still got to shower and put stuff up before she goes. She didn't want me to keep hanging around while she was doing that. He lifted his head, his gaze drifting out the window, and chuckled. I can't believe she's already leaving. Just when I'm getting used to her being there every day. He leaned back in the chair, a wry smile tickling his cheeks. She'll be back. He cocked his head thoughtfully before shrugging. He ran his hand through his hair before shaking his head, as if to shake off the topic like a dog whipping of water following a dip in the sea. Cove looked back to you, lips parted as if he was about to speak, but instead his eyes widened and his mouth smiled a tiny frown. Something had caught his attention. Something wrapped around the end of your leg where you met your foot. He cast his eyes back to your face, then down to your ankle, then back to your face. He repeated the process once, twice more, as if struggling to hold the two items in tandem. Maybe he was weighing up whether this could be a coincidence or not. Or maybe he was just too shy to verbalize his thoughts, or was still trying to find the words, and this is the most he could manage. The attention made you feel pleased. The whole plan for him to see you in it, and you had succeeded. While his attention was still divided between your ankle and your face, it totally was on you. On his next glance back to your face, Cove saw your expression had shifted. He watched his bewilderment eroded into mortification as he realized that he had been caught staring. He quickly spun in the chair to face the wall instead, allowing you to glimpse of the flush that had spread all the way to his ears. His embarrassment finally wore off enough for him to pipe up again. I hope you're not doing that to make fun of me. What do you mean? You know, about what I said before on the road trip. What did you say before? Cove groaned, tilting his head up to the ceiling. He had not brought your act. Why do I ever tell you things? How does it look? He lifted your leg up and pointed it towards his chair so he could get the best view. Cove just huffed in response. His head He jerked his face to the side. There we go. You waited patiently, not taking your eyes off him or lowering your foot until he gave in. Well? With a roll of the eye, he conceded.
It's nice.
I think it looks good. Cove prodded an accusing finger in your direction. But you already knew that because I told you. His comment drew a grin from you. He smiled back. The final shadows of his frantic initial reaction swept aside. Cove punched an elbow on the chair's arm and rubbed his jaw against his curled hand. There was a natural ease to his movements, a familiarity from the echoes of all the times before when he sat in that same position. This was a really nice summer. I'm looking forward to the next. Cove still nestled cozily in your chair, smiled at your response. How are your fish doing? Really good. Things in the tank are stable, and everybody looks healthy. That was nice to hear. You learned from Cove how hard it was to maintain an aquarium. Sunbeam has been busy, keeps down between the plants and out again when I walk by, like a game of peekaboo. Or hide and seek. Yeah. Cove idly glanced out the window. He gave a resigned sigh. It's gonna be harder to surf, with school and it getting colder out. I don't want to get rusty. Surfing's cool when we can. It's too bad we can't make the most of the waves when there's other fun stuff to do. He gave a light smile coupled with a shrug as a response. Won't be long until we get our grades for the summer work we did. Cove's bangs fluttered as he huffed, sinking in the chair. I'm not looking forward to that. We'll just have to see what mine are like. Cove looked at you, eyes bright. Things will work out. I know it will. No, I know it. Do you think we'll see Miranda around the school this year? Probably. She could be in one of our classes again. It'll be nice to see her again. Callie! Cove! The sudden call from downstairs caught you both unaware. You nearly forgotten the world outside your room. From the only look on his face, Cove had done the same. Just had a call. Cove's mom is ready to go. If you're quick, she might keep the mandated motherly smooching to a minimum. You doubt that. But it was nice that Mom and Miss Pierce had their strange sense of humor in common. Your eyes met Cove's. Wordlessly, you headed downstairs together. Each step on the way there was painfully slow, like he was trying to delay the inevitable. His whole body tense leaving the house, and Cove froze altogether before you could cross the street.
Oh.
The door's open. That must be taking her stuff out. He swallowed hard. She's really gonna leave. You gave his back a pat. The motion was soft, and you weren't sure he even noticed that at first. It'll be okay. Cove's bottom lip quivered, and he turned away. You gave his back a couple more reassuring pats. Thanks. At that, some conflicting worrying on his face bit. Really, he went across the street and inside his house, finding his parents in the living room, surrounded by his mom's packed things. Hey, kids! Good timing. I just called the taxi.
Hi.
And hi, Callie. So glad I got to see you today. It was fabulous getting to know you this summer. I finally got to put a face to the name I've heard so many times. She winked, and Cove pounded on cue over the teasing. I'm really happy I got to meet you too. Hopefully it won't be too long before we see each other again. Give it another 5 years. Nodding, Kara nodded her attention back to her boys. She patted Cliff on the arm with a warm smile, and then she enveloped Cove in a crushing hug. Initially, Cove squirmed to break free from her grip, but his mum was unfazed and kept him locked in place. Heartbeats later, he gave in and hugged her back tightly.
I'm so glad.
I'm so happy this trip was a success. Cliff looked like he was bursting with pride. And then Cove stiffened. Kara loosened her hold on him, and after study his face, concerned, she spoke her next words in a whisper
What do you think?
that had been meant just for her son.
What do you think?
Do you want to ungelve it? Raising an eyebrow, Cliff watched them carefully. His smile began to falter.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? Cove sighed, and his gaze flicked over to you for a moment. And then, just as quick, it went back on his parents.
It's okay.
It's alright.
Really?
Are you sure? I don't want to do it now. I can tell Dad later. Nervously, you watched the exchange, with the growing suspicion that Cove didn't want to have that conversation while you were there. You wondered if you should offer to leave when Kara gave Cove a pound on the head.
All right.
You can always call me if you want me to be part of the conversation, okay? Oh, cool. Thanks, Mom. Cliff still looked baffled about what Kara and Cove were referring to, but you watched as his shoulders slowly relaxed. You figured he desired to wait for Cove to be ready to talk to him. And with Cliff's silence, things seemed to be settled for now. After that, it wasn't so long before the taxi arrived, rolling up in the front of the house, and in clear view of the front open door. Kara stood up, smiling sadly. Well, that's my ride. Yeah. The matching reply got a chuckle out of Kara as you all filed out of the house. Father and son went with Kara's bags in hand. Once outside, you spotted your family waiting in the streets, and to your surprise, Derek was also with them. He stood uncomfortably, and he waved as soon as you noticed him.
What's up?
Hey, Callie. Hi, Cove. When did you get here? My dad dropped me off just a little bit ago. I thought I could visit one more time before school started.
Sorry.
You picked a busy time. Sorry. Jared couldn't even look at Cove. He nervously kept rolling a pebble with the bottom of his shoe.
Sorry.
I wasn't even thinking that your mum would be leaving today. I'm sorry, dude. What? You're not interrupting out then? You're always welcome here. It would have been sad if I didn't get to say goodbye before leaving. I think so too. It was apparent Derek would have preferred to have gone there at a more opportune moment. He never liked seeming impolite, but their reassuring words soothed his worries. The tension he was holding in his body lessened, and he looked like he was feeling much more like himself. Bye, Derek. It was fun getting to know you. Bye, Ma'am. Is there anything I can do to help? Nah, don't worry yourself over that. We're just about set. In that short amount of time, Cliff had gathered and packed the bags into the trunk. Kara took one last look at everyone inside. Alright, I don't want to keep the driver waiting. It's time to head out. The little crowd that had formed around started the chorus of farewells and well-wishing travelling, but Kara still made no move to enter the taxi. She placed her attention on Cove. I'll call when I get to the airport, and when I make it to Nevada. Also, you better call the moment you walk in the door at home, otherwise we'll be wondering all night if you got into trouble on the way there. I can do that. And could you call tomorrow too, so I can tell you how school went? Of course. I want to hear all about it. Kara put a hand over Cove's head and affectionately ruffled his hair one last time. She then let go, only to move on to squeezing his cheeks in her hands instead. But Mom!
Cove!
I love you so much, baby. She was chuckling by the time she freed him, and rounded things off with a small tap on the tip of his nose. Cove rubbed his face with a grin. Finally, she walked to the car while waving and took her seat in the taxi. Cliff hooked an arm around Cove's shoulder and kept him close as it began to pull away. For a moment, Cove looked up at his dad and then wrapped an arm around his back.
Bye.
Bye, Mom. Bye. Travel safe. Kara rolled down the window and stuck her head out of it. She waved again while blowing kisses at Cove and Cliff. See you again. Before she was out of sight, you decided to call out with your family and hers. As you added your voice to the others, you watched Kara's smile grow larger. The cab turned down on another road and completely disappeared from view. Cove let go of his dad and took a few steps out onto the empty street, still looking in the direction his mom went. He smiled, quietly, deep in thought. He got the impression Cove was feeling better than he was earlier. He was finally content with the way things were. The summer breeze brought a sweet-sounding jingle across the way. It was the wind chime you'd given to Cove. He had hung it in front of his house, and it became a very familiar sound in this neighborhood. You jumped a bit when your mom put a hand on your shoulder, pulling you away from your thoughts. She smiled when you looked at her. This was a great vacation, huh? Summer isn't over until the second I fall asleep. No naps for you then. Can't risk you accidentally ending summer a few hours too early for the rest of us. Chuckling, you shook your head amused. Cove walked over to the group. They were genuinely happy. Derek grinned at him welcomely, and everyone else was there, smiled at him, even Elizabeth. Well? Matt clapped her hands together, bringing everyone's attention back to the present. It's almost lunchtime. I think I'll put something special together. Her eyes sparkled with a plan, and Mum smiled. I bet you could use some help with that. That'd be absolutely wonderful. Derek glanced between the two, his eyebrows furrowed. Is there something I could do? Your mums exchanged a fond expression. Ma shook her head.
How sweet.
That's very sweet, Derek, but it's alright. It's not your job. Technically, your dad left you under Cliff's watch. You're meant to be taken care of by him, not doing chores for the neighbors. Mom laughed a little over her and joked. Watched Derek look away, discouraged.
It's okay.
It's okay. I don't mind. He was a little bashful about it. He wondered if Mom's joke was just reminding him he wasn't initially meant to be invited to lunch. It was getting a little awkward. Mom grinned sympathetically. Her own comment was meant to lighten the mood, not bring it back down. Matt tried again to get things moving forward. Why don't you kids go have fun? You can all come back in about an hour. We'll make it enough for everyone. Mom nodded in agreement.
Sounds good.
Another stunning idea, Lanny. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds like a plan, Ben. I don't want to cramp your style. I've got some stuff to work on, so I can be out of your head this afternoon. You should come by later, too. No reason you should be the odd man out. Mom seemed amused as Cliff rubbed his neck nervously. He grinned a wavering but pleased smile.
Thanks very much.
I appreciate the invite. He looked over the assembled crowd with knowing glances. I can help too. For as many people as you're feeding, there's going to be a lot of food. Didn't you hear what we told Derek? It wouldn't be fair to make you cook when we're the ones who invited you in. Matt raised an eyebrow when Cliff waved it off.
Come on.
I insist. Derek would be missing time with his pals. This would break it for me. I'm quite the chef. Matt and Mom exchanged further glances before Mom shrugged.
True.
An airtight argument. If you are sure, we'll be happy to have you, Chef Cliff. Cliff's grin widened, and seemed more hyped than you had expected him to be about helping with lunch. Cliff shook his head, a fond smile on his face. Then all of us grown-up people will be heading inside. I assume the rest of you kiddos are staying out. Maybe not all of them. Matt nodded her head, a silent question for Elizabeth. Your sister thought for a moment.
Alright.
I'll stay with the kids.
That's fantastic.
That's great. Both of your moms smiled at her, while Derek and Cove didn't seem to appreciate her phrasing. But the plan was decided. All three parents waved and headed into your house. It's just you teenagers now. Elizabeth looked at you and the others, a curious expression on her face. So, what now? You sadly wondered if Elizabeth only stayed out with you to avoid getting roped into work. Then again, she could genuinely want to hang out with you. You couldn't tell with your sister. Cove spoke up after no one else decided to answer Elizabeth's question. Want to go down to the shopping street? It's been a while, and I don't think there's a lot of other things we can agree on. Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Awesome to me. Unlike you guys, I haven't been there 1,001 times. It's new to me. Let's do it. You strolled across the road as a group, down to the beach, and then to the left. It took less than 15 minutes to arrive, one of the conveniences of Sunset Bud. The four of you looked around the familiar shops, trying to see if anything caught your attention this time. Derek was the most enthusiastic. He checked out every stall with his eyes wide with wonder. Elizabeth and Cove were in good spirits as well. This is so cool. Oh, that's so cool. He ran over to a street magician who was currently doing a card trick for a group of enchanted tourists. Derek clapped when the magician showed a middle-aged man his card. Derek turned back to the group with a curious gleam on his face. What does it take to perform here anyway? Do they have to ask somebody, or do you just show up and start doing stuff? Who'd you even ask? It's a public street. Hey, Miss Mare, can I pull my rabbit out of my hat? Please, Miss Foxy is well behaved, I promise. Derek chuckled, his eyes searching up and down the scene.
Maybe?
Maybe there's a boss of the shopping street. Nobody does this around my neighborhood. It's just regular stores behind walls. It's different if someone wants a real store, but here, I'm pretty sure people are just putting their little shows whenever they want to. And do whatever. That's so neat. We'll be allowed to do something too. Cove laughed, and Derek began almost vibrating with excitement. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What would we do? Well, I don't know what. Oh yeah, I just found out it's a possibility, you know? But there's gotta be something. We know cool stuff. I'm sure we could think about it. We could plan a show that get a crowd pumped. He gave a look to the other two. Derek continued to brainstorm out loud different potential performances, while you glanced over at Cove and Elizabeth. I can balance the soccer ball in my head. Last time I got 8 bounces before it fell. I wouldn't bring a ball here. Why not? Cove gestured to everything around. The stores, the people, all the colourful chaos that made up the shopping street. Would you chase a lost ball here? And what if it hit somebody? Even if you're good, someone could bump into you. That's true. Derek thought about it some more. Then he watched another performer, a woman doing tricks with 2 small dogs. One was fluffy and cream-coloured, while the other was a cool grey. The woman held up rings. Both animals jumped through the openings, happy to receive a treat at the end. Derek brightened. Maybe I'll teach crabs how to race. Crabs! It could work! With some amusement, the gang continued to use the stalls. Elizabeth found some earrings with a dangly, badly misprinted globe that everyone laughed at. Cove picked the blob as Iceland, but Derek thought it had to be Greenland. This is a world with what looks like 9 continents. I think you're both wrong. You agreed with your sister. Elizabeth makes a good point. Suddenly Cove froze. You stared at him and then tried to see what caught his attention. When you saw a familiar face down the way, it all made sense. Between the crowds, his bright hair stood out like a neon green bowl in a kitchen sink. It was Jeremy. Jeremy slowly drifted his eyes down the street, and his eyes widened in mutual recognition. He definitely noticed you. Derek frowned, and Cove tensed. You couldn't help but remember the last time you'd seen Jeremy at Miranda's birthday party. No wonder Cove was already defensive. You glared at Jeremy. You narrowed your eyes and projected your dislike. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Her gaze swept over Jeremy without a hint of a clue. Jeremy simply scoffed to himself and waded deeper into the crowd of people. Derek relaxed and exhaled loudly. I'm glad he's not going to stand with them. He peeked over at Elizabeth with a tiny smirk. See, that was the mean kid.
What?
Huh? She still didn't get it. That first day of summer hadn't made nearly as much of an impression on her as it did Derek. But he smiled and waved it off. Just forget about him. I already have. He laughed, and Cove smiled lightly. He seemed in a much better mood now that Jeremy was gone. Your eyes wandered over where Jeremy disappeared. You hadn't forgotten the day you met him either. He was only in town for a vacation, with the parents he hated. That glimpse was probably the last time you would ever see him. You kept that thought to yourself. Elizabeth snapped her fingers in front of your face. Apparently you had spaced out. Derek and Cove were already at the next stall. Come on, unless you want to get left here. You nodded and caught up with the others. Cove raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking about? Nothing. He gave you a searching look, but let it drop when Derek yelled at you to go check something out. Jeremy was unlike anyone you ever met before. You thought he was horrible. You and the group moved on from the stall and from Jeremy. It didn't take you long for everyone to attend to the joking. You all enjoyed what little time you had, as Elizabeth mentioned the hour was almost up. The little trip had flown by and lunch must be waiting for you now. Derek bounced on the balls of his feet.
Okay.
Come on, guys. Let's get going so we can eat. I'm starving. Homebound, here we go. Cove stretched one of his arms lazily. Let's go then. You know that I am appraisingly. Wait, what? You looked at him appraisingly. There we go. You asked Cove to carry you back to the house. Hey, Cove. Yeah? Did you carry me back home? What? Cove's smile said he was amused, while the tilt of his eyebrows were full of disbelief. You told him it was a special occasion. I think special transportation makes sense on such a big day. Cove sighed and shook his head. Derek and Elizabeth became a chorus of laughter. Come on, Cove, it'll be fun. Alright. Cove stepped over to you. He looked like he couldn't believe what he was doing. Your lips cracked into a large smile. Oh yeah, thanks. He carefully crouched down in front of you so you could climb on. It wasn't hard to hop on. He slipped his arms under your legs and did his best to lift you. It was wobbly, but he managed to stand all the way up. Elizabeth watched with a smirk on her face, while Derek laughed even harder. It was fair to say that your antics were entertaining. You're glad Cove went with it. Cove carried you home contently. Other than good-for-you-natured jokes at your expense, he didn't complain. He made it all the way to your house without putting you down. It was a pleasant walk home, and in no time you had made it back. Derek got to the front door and held it open for everyone as you each moseyed inside. The three parents were still in the kitchen. They looked up and waved. Welcome back, everyone. You made it just in time.
Hey.
I hope you're hungry. When Cove had brought you inside, the parents couldn't help but notice the odd conveyance. The parents were unsure. Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow.
Everything okay?
Did you pull something, Callie? I'm okay. Aw, Cove, you gone so strong.
Good kid.
And reliable, too. What a guy. Cove rolled his eyes at the commentary, then walking to your couch. You bent down and you let yourself pop back on the couch. Thanks for the lift. Cove exhaled loudly and shook his arms. He seemed relieved that he made it. So, did everyone have a nice time out? He gestured for the people to take a seat at the table. Plates and silverware had already been placed out. You took your normal seat. Elizabeth sat across from you. Derek took the seat to your left. Cove sat on your right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a great time. It was fine. I had fun. Yeah, the bank heist went off without a hitch. Your Derek got some chuckles going around the table. That's good in my book. Casually, Mr. Holden sat back in the empty seat across from Cove. He smiled at you and all the other kids. Mom set down a platter of full of water glasses on the table. He looked down at the gathering. It's a good thing we have 8 chairs. I can't remember the last time we had a group this big over for a meal. Can you pass the drinks down to the other side? Make sure you all get one. Sure. close to the cups obliged and started offering water around. As everything got set up, Ma tried Elizabeth to take her elbows off the table.
Now.
And you shouldn't slouch. He pointed to Mr. Holden, who was leaning forward with both arms on the table. Oops. Mr. Holden seemed unsure about the sudden attention, and carefully rearranged his posture to something more suitable for a fancy dinner. He smiled sheepishly at Ma. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and gave Ma a leveled look at her. You shouldn't be impolite to a guest in the house either. Elizabeth groaned a long and long-suffering. Ma and Mr. Holden chuckled.
Not bad.
There, you could learn a thing or two from Derek. He has the best manners here. Derek blushed. But it was true. His posture was upright and formal. He even held his fork gracefully. His table manners were on top of all his attempts to aid your parents made him the model of the meal attendee behavior.
Aw.
It's nothing. It's true, though. You've been a lovely guest. I've noticed that, too. It's always nice when you stay over Derek. Derek smiled and sat a little taller in his chair. And do you have anything good to say about our other guest? He deliberately looked at Cove with a teasing smile. Or is there just nothing to say? Well, Cove is the number one in my... Well, Cove is my number one, but he still does clean his hands by wiping them on his pants. Cove frowned at that, and absent-mindedly brushed his hands on his pants leg. Mom's laughed lightly.
There.
Elizabeth, you should know, after all these years, Cove is hardly a guest anymore. Cove smiled awkwardly. Thanks. You joked that Derek was basically an adult. Next time Derek is going to stay inside to cook, he's practically a mini adult. If he's joining us grown-ups, then you're gonna have to treat him like one. Okay. So. Mr. Flores, how go your taxes? Derek shook his head and chuckled. Everyone ate their meal together, and continued to hang out for the afternoon. After the food, and you and the others played a couple of games, and talked about plans for the upcoming year. The time passed by quickly, and soon it was time to part ways. Mr. Holden talked to your mums, and Cove drifted over to you, knowing that as soon as his dad finished up, he would be leaving. It'd be cool to stay, but we have some stuff to do before everything closes today.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye. Could you move? I need the phone. Cove raised an eyebrow, and Elizabeth impatiently gestured behind him. Cove realized that he was standing right in front of where the receiver was placed. He sidestepped out the way and shook his head, clearly thinking Elizabeth was rushing too much. His sister made a beeline for the phone and started dialing the number of what you figured was going to be one of her friends. Knowing Elizabeth was going to be on there for a while. You, Cove, and Derek shuffled closer to the door. It seemed like Mr. Holden was wrapping up his conversation, so everyone started saying their various farewells.
Talk to you later.
See you later, Cove. We've got to do this again sometime. Yeah. See you. Cove turned to you and smiled slightly. Bye, Callie. You hugged Cove goodbye. You stepped forward and spread his arms wide. Cove only had a moment to react before you encircled him in your arms. Cove hugged you back tightly, and his chest rumbled as he laughed.
Dude.
Seriously, dude. We'll have to hang out later. I'm gonna miss you during school. He offered Cove a high five, and the two boys clapped their hands together. Cove and his dad left soon after that. Your parents started cleaning up the house, and Elizabeth was still chatting to her friends on the phone. It was just you and Derek left. He elected to stay outside in the front of the house to keep waiting for his dad to pick him up. You decided to keep your guest company, although he was originally Cove's visitor. A light summer breeze blew through your hair, and Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot. Thanks for waiting with me. He kicked at the ground distractedly.
Well.
Dad's still gonna be a while. So, you wanna go for a walk? Sure, I don't mind. The two of you walked down the street again. Just wondering without a destination in plan. It was a quiet stroll, too quiet for Derek being the company. You turned to him when you noticed he wasn't saying a word. That was unusual. Derek always had something he could chat about. He wasn't sure if you should ask about it. Somehow you ended up at the old park near a bench. Oh, near the beach. You glanced over to Derek once more, still expecting him to say something any second now. However, nothing came from him. In fact, you noticed a frown creeping on his face. Derek smiled when he realized you were watching. At least, his mouth was turned up. There wasn't anything he could... there wasn't anything that really felt happy in the expression. He turned away and the smile fell off his face. His eyes stared intently at the ground, and he raised an eyebrow. Derek, what's going on? I'm a little sad. It's just, with school starting back up again, it's gonna be harder to visit. I'm gonna have homework and clubs and practices and everything else.
Sucks.
It really sucks we go to different schools. His face screwed up and his fists were closed tightly together. This was really concerning him. What if we don't have time? He channeled some optimism in the conversation. We'll make time. We can talk over the phone and have plans for weekends. It'll be okay. Derek looked at the sky. It was orange and purple with little wisps of clouds scattered around. A plane flew high with a jet stream trailing behind it. Then he turned to the ground again. Derek's face was tilted far enough down that it was harder to read his expression. Hey, Callie, I actually wanted to talk to you about something, if you don't mind. There was a pause, and you waited for him to finish his thought.
Sorry.
I was just kind of wondering, do you like guys? At all? Like, would you ever want to be with someone who was a boy? Sorry that's weird to ask. I could be with a guy. Okay, then... He hesitated before finishing his question. So, what I mean is... is there any guy you think is kind of cool? That you like? Around here, not at school or anything. Kind of like that. He tucked his head further. You thought about it. I like you. Derek's eyes widened for a moment. He wondered if his heart had stopped, because he just stood there, completely frozen. Then quietly, almost breathlessly, he asked a question. Really? Maybe you didn't get what I'm asking about. He mumbled to himself for a while. So, Derek pulled himself together, somewhat meekly. He looked at you while he tried to project his confidence. His posture was too tight for you to believe it. He was nervous.
Alright.
You know, thinking ahead and everything is important. You've gotta get yourself a game plan and all that. It's good to make plans, especially backup plans. He babbled, full of energy and forced gusto. Well, anyway, I heard about this thing where people make pacts with their good friends, that if they don't find anyone else, then they get together. Together. Like they get married and stuff. So I was thinking, this is good to have plans. It might be cool if we did something like that. His eyes widened and he started to make frantic hand gestures. Just, then we'll never have to worry about the future or finding someone. We can set like a whole decade in the future. Forever from now. We wouldn't have to graduate high school and probably college too. We'd have jobs and really be grown up. I mean, we'd probably have our own places, maybe our own pets and student loans and cars. Derek babbled on for a while more. It was as if all the words he held in silence during his work had burst out now, all at once. So yeah, what do you think? Derek, I do know what you were talking about. I like you. Why won't you listen to me? He had to pause, desperate to find a way to explain himself. Well, that's a big decision. You don't have to think about it, that kind of thing right now. It's better to worry about that later when we're grown up. That's why it's a good idea to have a plan, you know? I like you a lot too. And honestly, we would work out the best for that. So? It's a deal. Really? Awesome. Derek brightened significantly and started to bounce excitedly on the balls of his feet. Okay then. Let's do it. He held out his hand, offering a shake, officially repeated the terms of the deal. If in 10 years I, Derek Suarez, am still single, and if in 10 years you, Kelly Wolf, is still single, we both agree that the two of us will get together. You kissed her on the lips. You passed right by his outreached arms, and pressed a slight kiss against his smiling mouth. When you parted, Derek gasped and slapped the hand against his chest. Oh, that works too.
It's a deal.
Alright, thanks. I feel better about the future already. He laughed and scratched the back of his head. You could tell he was giddy about this, and you felt happy too. I respect your commitment to preparation. Thanks. You didn't spend much longer at the park after that. Derek didn't want to miss his dad, so you both made your way back to your street. Derek's steps seemed lighter than before. Derek found all kinds of fun things to talk about as you walked side by side back to your street. Then you followed down your curb outside your house, hugging your arms around your legs. His voice was comforting, and you were grateful that Derek was keeping you both distracted from the inevitable for a little while longer. It was still summer vacation. You listened while he excitedly told you all about the new action movie coming out in a few months. And then you watched his brow pinch as he described the new ball tricks he had been working on perfecting. It was easy to laugh along to his tales. You enjoyed the shine in his green eyes, most when the conversation shifted to funny stories about his little brothers. Still, there was part of you that hadn't moved from the conversation in the park. Your face went hot replaying Derek's proposal for the future in your mind. You said yes. Did that mean you were kind of engaged? Engaged with caveats, maybe? Focusing on a pebble you were rolling under your foot, you felt a strange thrill twisting in your chest. You peeked at him, and Derek was still busily telling you about the time Nicholas dropped his treat baggie in the car. Most of the cookies fell under the seat, in loose hair and dirt. Wrinkling your nose, you laughed. No matter what happened in 10 years, you hoped you and Derek still got to hang out, even if you were just sitting on the curb together. It was almost hard to believe that much time had passed at all, when a couple of short honks rang out in the neighborhood. Snickering, Derek scratched the back of his neck. That's it. He looked up in the street and spotted the van coming around the corner. Mrs. Suarez cheerily waved her arm out of the window from the shotgun seat. Oh, and Mom, too. Guess we know what that means. Derek rose to his feet and brushed some dirt off his pants. He followed his leads as the car rolled to a stop in front of your house. The van's side door slowly, laboriously opened. On the inside was Harry with a victorious wide grin as he tugged the heavy door open the rest of the way so Derek could head away in.
Hi.
Hi! Nicholas was there too. You heard him well before you saw him. We're here! Looking past Harry. You found Nicholas bouncing in his straps, in full force. Thanks for coming, guys. Hey boys, nice seeing you. Holding onto the side of the door, Derek leaned into the car to give Nicholas a moment of one-on-one attention. You could hear the kids' giggles over everything else. Faintly, you could hear a conversation that was happening between Derek's parents. but you couldn't make out a single word. Before you could do anything without thought, Derek glanced over his shoulder. He paused and held your gaze softly. And then Derek let go of the car to stand back in front of you one last time. I've got to go. Well, you know that, but bye. It was really cool hanging out with you today, and this summer. Not even his usual cheery enthusiasm could keep his sadness away from this time. His voice grew quieter, and he scuffed his foot on the pavement.
We had a good summer break, huh?
We had a good summer break, huh? But it had to end sometime. Yeah, and it was the best summer too. The confidence and sincerity in your voice lifted his mood. He put his hands on his hips and beamed. It was! You hugged him goodbye, wrapping your arms securely around Derek and hooked your chin on his shoulder. You squeezed your eyes shut, as though that would make your embrace even more powerful. He hugged you back just as tight before he let go completely and whispered one last promise.
It's okay.
Don't worry, I'll be back sometime. But the time had finally come, and Derek hopped into the cabin of the van. Clary and Nicholas waved to you from their seats. The adults shouted their goodbyes from the front. You laughed at their muffled voices, and Miss Suarez leaned out of the car window.
Have a good one.
We realized you probably couldn't hear us. Mr. Suarez and I just wanted to say goodbye, Callie. Yes, goodbye. Derek's dad leaned over his wife to give his farewells. Don't worry, you haven't seen the last of me. Putting your hands on your hips, you confidently held your head high. Miss Suarez giggled and partly covered her growing grin with her hand.
Yes.
Yes. I'm sure you're right. Yeah, you haven't seen the last of me. The little boy held his head high, like you before, letting out a few mischievous giggles. But that brief moment was more than enough to have you beaming with pride over his seal of approval. Take care, Callie! Then Derek closed the door for Clary this time. He moved the massive door with much more ease. After that, the car moved further down the street before flipping around to drive up the hill and out of the neighborhood. He remained rooted there to the curb and watched the Suarez family drive away. You were relieved you got a chance to see the whole family again. But they were gone, and you were left to your own devices. Pivoting around, you made your way inside. Now that it was quiet, you yawned and decided it was a good time to settle in for the night. Stretching your arms over your head, you noticed the living room phone happened to be free. You called Lee. He picked up the receiver and punched in the familiar number while going to take a seat on the couch. Soon enough, after explaining the situation to the housekeeper, Lee answered. Hey! Hi, Lee. Can you talk? Definitely. We have to. My gosh, can you believe it's almost time for school to start? What happened to our summer? School starts first thing tomorrow for me.
Boo.
Ew! And I thought starting next week was bad enough. Enjoy your last week. Oh, I will. I hope you survive your first day. I'm looking forward to it. Then I have nothing to worry about it. You'll have a better chance of surviving. At least summer was nice while it lasted, right? We were busy. Yeah. If only you thought over all the best memories you made this summer. Lee was there for some, but there were so many you hadn't filled her in on yet. You reminisced about the moment of your summer. You began to speak about Miranda's birthday party. I went with Cove to a birthday party. It was for a classmate we had, Miranda. Ooh, birthday parties are always fun. There's bounce house games and cake and ice cream. She knows how to throw a party. I made Cove wear one of the funny hats, and I bet he loved every minute of it. At that you burst into laughter. I went on a vacation. Cove's parents ended up inviting my whole family on an RV road trip.
Really?
Whoa, that's awesome! It was a 3-day trip, and we visited the Redwood National Forest. Lucky. Cove snuck up into the loft where I was staying.
What?
Cove did what? Wait. Start at the beginning. It took a while until you stopped laughing from Lee's reaction long enough to tell her every detail of the story. He excitedly squealed more than once. I can't believe you've been holding out on me with such a juicy story. Nothing really happened. You keep telling yourself that. You have to keep me updated on what happens next. It was hard to focus on what she was saying. Her face was probably red right now, just thinking about what happened. Soiree at the country club. I went to a soiree at my mom's country club. There were lots of food, dancing, and people who dressed up formally.
Huh.
Well, I've been to one of those. They're cool. But how did it go for you? I danced with a mysterious stranger. That's so exciting. I wouldn't be swept off my feet by a mysterious stranger. It wasn't exactly like that. After laughing a bit, you dove into telling Lee everything about your encounter. You enjoyed sharing that moment, the memory with her. Do you think you'll ever see him again? I don't know. He didn't seem to be from here. Oh, I guess he'll always be a mystery. There was this day that Mom and Ma took me and Elizabeth to on a big supply shopping trip. What made it so memorable? Lee chuckled, but you could hear the curiosity in her voice. I went surfing with Cove later. Oh, that's super cool. It was so fun. I went to the library to work on assignments.
What?
Hey, I thought we were supposed to be talking about the good parts of summer.
What?
It was fun because I got to hang out with Derek and Cove. Well, that's cool. Hanging out with the boys must have saved the whole day. I think so too. One night, Cove's parents invited me over for dinner at their house for the first time. Mr. Holden made Mexican food. The meal was good. Mexican is yummy, so that was no surprise. What else happened? We played card games. Fun! And we bet with real money. No way. His parents are cool. Oh, one time, Cove's mom had me and Cove go with her on this ride all around town. Why did she do that? Just 'cause? Sort of. We got caught in a sun shower and she wanted to help us air dry. And it kept going from there. We went to a movie without even knowing what it was. It was this ghost horror movie. It was actually fun to watch. Really, what happened in it? We took a little time to explain to her the events of the film. She listened very entertained. I remember the hottest day this summer. I could barely do anything, and I had to stay inside the entire afternoon. I played tic-tac-toe with Cove. Did you win? No. Damn. I bet it was still fun though. Oh shit. Derek asked me to help him babysit his two brothers, Clary and Nicholas. We went to the park and to the pool and hung out in Derek's house. That's so much fun. You were watching them the whole time. Not the whole time, but most of it. Me and Derek jumped into the pool with our clothes on. What, to both of you? Why? We were enjoying our summer and the fun of not being grown-ups. Wow. Me and Cove and Derek got to spend one day all together, and totally on our own. Usually there's other people around, or one of us has to go before the other. We had a big water balloon fire in the neighborhood. Exciting! Yeah, it was chaos out there. What was your big highlight of the summer, Lee? Talking to you is always the best part of my summer. Even though it was a phone call, you knew Lee was winking at you. Good, I'm glad you picked the right answer. That had Lee laughing hard for a few moments. Alright, okay. So the high point for me was when I took that trip with my parents to Europe. That was amazing. You only continued to go over your adventures until you were both yawning to each other over the phone. At that, you decided it was time to say goodbye for now. You did have school to wake up for in the morning. Bye, Lee.
Bye.
Night, Callie. Talk to you later. Left the phone on the side table for now. Looking at the clock on the wall, you saw it was only about 10 minutes until your mums would be insisting you had to go to bed so you would be rested enough for school. You stretched your legs on the couch and sighed in defeat, watching the minute hand change 1 minute closer to bedtime. You rearranged yourself, being restless, and looked out to the window. Startled initially, you spotted a figure on the hills. It was Cove. When the surprise faded, you realized it wasn't that much of a shock. At all. It was exactly something Cove would do. You ran off to go see him. Sprinting, you reached the front door in record time. You didn't think you'd see Cove again that day. You had to go to him. When you arrived, you noticed how many fireflies were out at night. They were drifting along lazily, barely minding your presence as you waded through to reach the top of the hill. Cove turned towards you as you approached, and you noticed right away that Cove looked happy to see you. Hey! You had a bounce in your step. You weren't sure how long you would get before your mom roped you back inside the bed. Hey, what are you doing out here? Nothing, not really. He shrugged, seeming unhappy with his own answer. You stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Well, I guess I was feeling kind of weird and stuff, so I'm getting some fresh air before bed. I know how you feel. It's hard to stay still. Tomorrow is going to be the start of a new year. At the entrance of school, a small noise escaped him. Cove let himself fall back onto his butt, and then all the way down, so he was laying on his back, and he looked up at the sky. He sat on his chest. He made himself a pretty available seat with the way he was laid out. You felt yourself square in the middle of his torso. Oof, Kelly! He jolted up with a surprise, though he couldn't get far with you on top of him. He moved right back into the grass. With a huff, he just gave up on being shocked. Fine. He snickered in a self-satisfied way. He had been lost in thought, or was possibly waiting for you to situate yourself. But he started speaking again, unprompted.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for being kind of awkward when my mum was leaving. Surprised you stared at him for a moment. You weren't expecting that. I just wanted to let you know that I talked to my dad about how I felt and things. It's okay now. You were genuinely glad to hear that, and it brought a small smile to your face. But your thoughts quickly wandered back to the first day when you met Mr. Holden. Did his dad confess about that? From the way Cove talked, you guessed he hadn't. So there was more to Cove and his dad to talk about. But it was a relief to know that they had made a start. Now is not a good time to bring up what you were thinking, though. You could wait longer to say it. It was almost unbelievable how much of an impact he had made on your life. Just by moving in next door. You couldn't even imagine what your days might have looked like in a world where you hadn't met him. Cove glanced back at you, waiting for a response, and you had no idea what to say. Cove just stared at you unblinkingly. What? It's you. Huh? He snickered before answering. He looked thoroughly amused with your reaction. That's what you do all the time, so I'm being you. You do that all the time too. Do I? Yeah. Cove couldn't help but grin at that. Honestly, there weren't many people you could think of who could tease you about something like that. Returning his smile, you realized there was no denying that you two had been around each other for a long time. Cove broke the quiet before it could fully settle.
See you
tomorrow.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you then. With the final wave, Cove headed for home, but you stayed there a few minutes longer. Your mind kept going to a simple statement, see you tomorrow. No matter how much it was changing around you, there were some things in your life that always seemed to remain true. The hills felt warm to you that night. Before you knew it, you were getting comfortable under the covers in your room. Your mind couldn't help but still be buzzing with thoughts about the future. You felt excited. There was a little doubt in your mind that things were moving forward, and you couldn't wait to find out what changes were waiting for you on the horizon. Slowly your eyes grew heavy as you drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning with wishful thoughts. No matter what happened next, you could only hope that you would make the most of it. You're instead in a dream where a noise from outside and from the outside world jostled you. Your eyes stopped open. The light clatter continued. Now that you were more alert, you could distinguish it as tapping sound. Quiet, slow, but persistent. Each beat was like being poked. You couldn't ignore it. You lifted your head from the pillow and looked for the source. Not much work was needed to puzzle it out. It was from the window. With that, you knew exactly what it was. From the color of light filtering into your room, it was too early for anyone to be awake, including the sun. It barely held itself over the horizon, but it didn't stop some people, it seemed. You sat up in bed and opened the window wide. Full air, not yet warmed by the day, tickled your face as it pushed into your room. And just as you expected, there was your neighbor crouched on your windowsill. He was dressed, though not for school. He was wearing a wetsuit and a fond smile. Hi, Callie. You stood back, blinking. So, technically we won't be back to school for a few more hours. His voice was delicate, but deliberate. Each word a careful explanation. Classes haven't actually started yet, so you want to hit the beach with me one more time this summer? Cove, you're so cute. His smile widened affectionately. He rushed to get changed into something suitable while Cove climbed back down to ground level. Your limbs, still half asleep, struggled somewhat as you attempted to coordinate them into a swimsuit, but you got there in the end. Then you were tiptoeing out of your front door, Cove clutching a towel. Cove was already there to greet you. Your eyes met. Cove diverted your gaze to your destination and back to you. You checked the door was closed and gave him a thumbs up. The two of you leapt into action. Wordlessly, you began to run down the familiar path ahead. Cove beside you. The thrill of your illicit outing made you want to laugh. Not that you would dare. If any of your family looked out and saw you, then your summer would be back to being over. One glance at Cove told you he was exactly the same, holding back snickers for fear of being caught unheard. The towel streamed out under your arm like a cape. You would not be running so fast downhill, but simply keeping your balance and not tumbling down was a real threat. It wasn't just enough to make you slow your pace. For every step you took, the beach was a little closer and the day a little brighter. The lay ahead of you would arrive, and you were happy to meet it. The in-between. The style classes ended, the relaxed 3 days of summer. It didn't take long for you to get back into the swing of the school year routine. Schedules and homework became the new normal. Derek wasn't around nearly as much, to his great dismay. For school itself and after-school activities, there weren't many opportunities for him to take the trip out to your neighborhood, especially because he was always at some training camp or on a new regiment with a strict schedule. The two of you were usually stuck with merely telling each other about what was happening in your lives, instead of sharing your days in the same place. But he was always good at anticipating things, and being prepared for them. Derek knew he wouldn't be able to be with you that much going forward. That was probably the only reason he pushed any notion of you two liking each other as only a concept for the future, when you were adults and had to do taxes. Or at least that was one of the reasons he never fully accepted it. You were sure. But you still kept touch over the phone as best as you could. The Jeremy kid disappeared. After that summer, no one had ever heard from him again. Where he went or what he might be up to was a mystery. You saw more of Miranda around. Since you two hung out on her birthday, she had opened up to you. The two of you talked regularly. She was the same towards Cove. After a while, the three of you developed in a real friendship together. More summers came and went, like waves on the shore, coming in and out. In your second year of high school, someone new started to visit Sunset Bird. A sunny girl named Terry Brooke. She was a friend of Cove. She was a friend Cove made due to them both being ocean obsessed. Terry was more than glad to befriend you too. Someone close to Cove had to be good company, she felt. You were pleased to get along with her as well. Funny enough, Terry was also extremely tight with Miranda, who had known her even longer than Cove. The four of you were able to create a small friend circle. As for your home life, the Wolves had also had developments. Changing the laws and public perceptions countrywide made it possible for your mums to openly wear their wedding rings, without questions. Though they had a wedding years ago, it was only recently that the union was officially recognized everywhere in the US. That was a good day, to say at least. Elizabeth came into her own and stopped being quite as irritable. She no longer worried about the perceived childishness she grew up for real. As she grew up for real. She didn't even mind being called Lizzie again. Although most people used Liz. She eventually graduated high school and moved out to attend college in another state. It was a lot for you to adjust to your older sister being gone. Lizzie never let you forget her role in your life, though, and kept in touch. Cove's relationship with his family improved over the years. Harry visited several times after that summer, and things became easier between the two. He was also closer with his dad than ever before. You knew they talked more, and that helped prevent a lot of friction before it could start. And Cove only continued to open up to his parents and the rest of the world. He was so bright he shone. He would willingly join conversations and make jokes, and put in an effort not to use overly blunt phrasing. Cove had shifted from preferring athletics to become more seriously studious as his schooling went on. Things had shifted between you and Cove. You've been friends for years, but the closer you became, the more you felt for him. You didn't view him as purely platonic way anymore. It was strange to look past it all. The future had faded into your present, and then it was simply the past. Even the most fundamental parts of your life can last forever. You felt that the most pointedly the day you inevitably graduated high school. It was over, and you would not be going back ever again. From now on, what came was your next choice. You would be directing your own life. That was where you currently... That was where you were currently. The summer after school had ended. The first summer of true freedom. What used to be reprieved from the typical was now going to be your first step into adulthood. One fine summer morning, you took in what had become a very special scene, the whole family having a meal together. Your big sister Liz still hadn't lived at home full time for a couple of years, but she arrived last week to spend the season here since it was an off semester for her. You wanted to make sure she was in town because you had also graduated high school. So who knew how much rarer these moments would become in the future? He watched on as Liz laughed good-naturedly over a comment Ma made. Her Elizabeth-only mindset had only been a phase. Nearly any nickname was welcomed at this point in her life. Strangely, even though she moved away, you'd lately felt closer to her than you had in a long time. Finally scooped more of your breakfast and chewed absent-mindedly. You're a picky eater, and the meal you had reflected that. Your moms were happy to make food that fit your needs, along with dishes for themselves that didn't. Though you often made your own food nowadays. It wasn't only you who had a diet that excluded certain things, as it had been a vegetarian for a while. Conversation had gone on idly without you fully taking in the words, until your ears were peaked when Ma started on a bit of town gossip. And so that's how I heard the news. Alright. Now stop burying the... The lady? Lady? Lead. Stop burying the lead. And tell us, what is the so-called news? Ma giggled as she cast a look across the table, satisfied that she had everyone's attention. Well, it turns out the Donalds won't be renting out the condo on the street as per Sunset Bird's tradition, for the first time in what must be nearly 2 decades. A chorus of gasps and shocked expressions had all around. After the initial shock, your eyebrows pinched. Mom may consider them by name, but you and Liz always viewed them exclusively as the mean old couple who would yell at anyone under 25 who crossed their paths. Your mom continued on with the story, spreading strawberry jam over a piece of toast as she did so. They've decided not to take big trips anymore. Friends and family will be visiting them at their home. That's nice for them then. Have a good summer, me and grandparents with no grandkids away from us. Finally, they can piss off. Be nice, kids. You don't want to end up like them, do you? You and your sister cracked smiles at the joke.
Well?
At least I won't be here to yell at my children anymore.
Lonnie!
Lonnie! And that blunt comment got laughter from all 3 of you, engrossed in conversation once more. You continued to chat with your family until the meal was over. Step 3. Third time's charm. As it went, once the food was eaten and the cleanup had been done, Liz took the role of washing the dishes and passing them to you for drying and putting away. You had a set of cups in front of you that needed to go on the top shelf of the cabinet. It was effortless to do. You were very tall. That was simply your lot in life. You had always been vertically gifted. You didn't even know what to think about it. That part of yourself was never something you could really figure your thoughts on. Liz shook you out of your initial musing by starting up an impromptu conversation. She seemed to be voicing the thoughts that had been buzzing around in her head. I have to say, going back for another semester this fall is pretty intimidating. You'd think after the first year or 2 I would have a handle on things, but no. You stole a glance at her, still placing the cups in their proper place. I guess it's only fair. My first round was pretty general classes. The year 1 of my architecture major was the basics. Now it feels serious. I have to actually know some things. The laugh she gave was flippantly airy, but the way she scrubbed at the plates held more force than necessary. I think it's really cool you want to be an architect. Don't be too impressed yet. Wait to see if it actually happens, but thanks. Your older sister's mouth cracked into a small smile. It'll be fine one way or another. Oh. Well, I'm not trying to scare you away from college, if that's even your plan. What's going on with that, anyway? You came to a firm conclusion recently. You made it through 12 years of full-time education already. You can make your ideas happen, I'm sure. Sometimes it still felt hard to believe your public schooling experience was over. In the end, you had graduated at the top of your classes. And you were going to miss it. It had become a familiar, fulfilling part of your life. Liz picked up the silence her question ended up creating. She decided it was time to make a closing statement on the topic.
You're a good kid.
You're a good kid, Callie. Do what's best for you. And we'll be here to back it up. Thanks, Liz. And that, Liz happily passed the final dish your way. She waved a soapy-soaked hand as a farewell and moved on to her next task with the cleanup job. You refocused on getting the last pieces back where they belonged. You eventually moved on to a new chore, but that was interrupted by the sound of your cell phone. You said one of your most beloved songs is the ringtone. You actually picked it up from the table where you had placed it earlier. The phone was a couple of years old at this point. It had been a 16th birthday gift from your parents. They decided which model to get, but you got to pick the color. It was purple. And it had a special charm attached to it, which was the dolphin keychain Cove brought you when you were a kid. You were pleased when you finally had a prominent place to use the gift. The screen lit up as you gave the little device a swipe with one finger. You were informed by caller ID that it was Lee. You weren't surprised. Despite having busier and busier lives, and not living in the same town, you still had a good relationship with your cousin of the same age. Especially once the miracle of the both of you having your own phones actually happened. You got hers first, though. Tapping the accept button, you answered her call. A familiar bubbly voice came through right after.
Hi.
Hey, Callie. Hiya. I trust I'm not interrupting anything major? That dolphin charm looks oddly different and smaller to the one we saw in step 1. Oh well. Only some cleanup around the house. Oh, then you're welcome to my call. A distraction from that must have been desperately needed. Yes, thank you, my dear cousin.
My pleasure.
It's my pleasure. She giggled, and you could hear the jangling of the jewelry she must be wearing. Nothing amazing is happening for me either. I'm bored and felt like chatting. My morning shift ended, so I'm free for the rest of the day. Woo! That's good. You are off from your part-time job today. Like you, Lee had started dipping her toes into the workforce as of late. It made keeping in touch frequently more complicated, but you both managed. What about you? It's been pretty normal. Cool. That's you then. So, how's Mr. Cove Holden doing? There was a teasing bent to her tone. She was never willing to let up what was going on between the two of you. But that name was incredibly familiar to your ears. Cove, your next-door neighbor, for the past decade at this point. He was an important friend, but you secretly hoped he would tell you he felt more than that. Cove was so very special to you. You could only dream that it was mutual, but you wouldn't be able to tell him that, though. Maybe he would take the plunge. Are you even surviving without the boy being 10 feet away at all times? Or is everything right with the world again and he's back? No, Lee. He isn't here, just like he wasn't here yesterday, or the last time you asked, or the time before that.
Sorry.
Oh, my bad. Can you blame me? It doesn't seem like he should have made his grand return today. Doesn't it seem like he should have made his grand return already? Plus, I want to visit soon, and he needs to be there too. You could understand where she was coming from. This was certainly outside the norm. For the past couple of months, and especially the last few weeks especially, Cove had been going to his mom's place in Nevada. The two of you still regularly stayed in contact over text and calls, but still. Your mind began to drift back in time to all the prior trips he'd taken to visit her. Almost every year he'd have to go for a while, and then he'd be back. It upset you. Your younger self was worried about him leaving for good. Your mom's helped you ship out care packages to him and his mom. It was always full of really great stuff. He sent you regular letters in return. That's how it was in the past. But lately he had been trying to see her as much as he could before taking long trips to another state became too impractical to do. His part-time work could become full-time soon. Or he could be moving somewhere else for school. Cove had naturally been clear what his plans were after graduation. Cove was hesitant to speak on that, even with you. It couldn't be avoided forever. Though you both knew that.
Well?
Ahem. Maybe we should switch this to a non-Cove related topic. Sounds like a plan. The rest of the conversation rolled on. Not much longer, though. Lee had to go, and you needed to finish your responsibilities around the house. The both of you exchanged goodbyes, and then you went back to what you had been working on before the call came in. As you wrapped up the last of your chores, you were approached by Liz, wearing a cheeky smile. I've got Mom's keys. Want to get out of this tiny town and do some shopping in the real city? Sounds great. Good. I'm driving. It was nice of her to do that. You had a license, but tried to avoid driving when possible. Go get your wallet and anything else. We're going now. With a nod, you made a quick detour to collect your stuff in your bedroom. You had money saved up from all the part-time work you had done, as well as from gifts you had received. I was making sure you were both fully prepared for the long haul to the largest city in the surrounding area. You buckled into the car. It was a smooth ride there, with light conversation about what shops to stop at, and the radio blasting. The trip there breezed by in what felt like no time. You had gone from cruising down the road to cruising through the mall. This had her interest to check out, and you yours. You had gotten into new things since you'd grown up. You like to watch plays, stand-up comedy, and games are fun to you. You like to play video games, card games, board games, and you're really into sports. All of them generally. I hate spelling. Okay. You enjoy music. You played the violin, guitar, and the piano. And you spent time on art, drawing, painting, sculpting, creating digitally. You're into fashion, you love clothes, you love shoes, and you enjoyed learning new things, you wrote things, you like to read, fictional novels, comic books, manga. That was everything major that came to mind. Oh, I know. Yeah. Going surfing, swimming, and seashells walking on. Okay. That was everything major that came to mind. When turning the corner down and you exit the mall, your eyes caught on the little gift store. Your friends and family had recently given you many presents for graduating high school. You realized you wanted to get a graduation gift for yourself to give to Cove. Graduation may have already come and gone, but Cove wasn't really around then anyway. You hope to an eye out for something good, though you might already have something nice for him at home already. Eventually, the mall was explored in full, with every shop note being checked over. Rather than going home, you decided to walk over to some smaller stores nearby. Liz had many thoughts on that topic.
So?
Honestly, malls are not a bastion of society. Even if smaller stores require extra distance, the brands are so much more. Then your sister abruptly stopped speaking and walking, right in the middle of the path. It's a good thing no one was behind her. She seemed entirely shut off for a moment. Liz? The attempt to catch her attention was unsuccessful. Something else had all her focus. Before you could puzzle out what it might be, she began to mumble out the corner of her mouth. Callie, don't draw attention, but look. What? The harsher whisper and the subtle jerk of her head, she urged you once more.
Hey.
Look. You followed her gaze as best as you could to a bunch of colourful teens strolling down the same path. Okay. You faced back over to your sister with a confused expression and an unspoken question. What are you supposed to be seeing there? Callie, doesn't one of them seem familiar? She was practically bouncing at this point, so you looked over to the group again. This time you saw what she was seeing. Among the collection of strangers was brown hair, grey eyes, and lots of freckles. That's Shiloh! Our Shiloh! From when we were kids! Yep, that was definitely him. I can't believe it! He's honestly just there. That's hilarious. That's incredible. Oh, but how do we talk to him? We'd have to pull him away from all these other people, and what if I'm wrong? Your mouth opened to reply, but she cut it off with her own answer to the question. I've got it. I'll shout the name Shiloh, and then we can act like it wasn't us if he responds to that. We'll know it was him. We'll know without a doubt it's him. Callie, keep an eye out to see if he looks. Why do I have to be the one who watches? Likely without even hearing what you said, Liz put her plan into action. Shiloh! She loudly projected the word across the way, then put on an act of casualness, turning her head away from the scene while brushing at the skirt of her dress. In a supremely awkward moment, you could only stand there as the attention in the area shifted to the two of you, thanks to your sister's shout. For the many startled bystanders who became altered to your presence, one of them was the boy. From a distance, his large eyes met yours. He looked. A wide grin took over Liz's face. She pushed the rim of her sun hat up and away from her face while swishing back to greet her friend directly. Shiloh! Waving, she stepped a bit closer to express her intention to meet without really closing the gap. She wanted him to come to her. The presumed to be Shiloh looked surprised at the call-out. He stole a quick glance at the crowd he was with, and hesitantly glanced back your way. He was trying to double-check something. Liz remained steadfast with her gaze trained on him, and ultimately he broke away from the rest of them. After a light-footed jog across the brick path, the young man pleasantly presented himself in front of you and Liz.
Hi.
Hi, I like your hat. Just like that. Just that simple greeting Liz had. Just that simple greeting had Liz giggling.
Hey.
Hello. I'm not sure if you remember this, but I'm Lizzie, and that's Callie. We were all friends when we were little kids. His already wide eyes grew even wider. Well, even larger. Their gaze starting between you and Liz. His previous chipper demeanor faded into something delicate. I'm really sorry, but I think you have the wrong person. You could tell not by being instantly recognized, this was going to make the exchange more of a challenge. Still, Liz was undeterred. It was a long time ago. You were really young. I get why you feel like that. However, I'm positive you're right. You're exactly the same. That face, the freckles, how genially you try to phrase things. You're even still wearing a hat. Instinctively, he looked up to his headwear, with creased brows, not making the connection on why the hat meant something to her.
Okay.
We knew each other, okay? And an uneasy smile settled on him as silence followed Liz's speech. He was picking his next words carefully. Then the quiet obliterated by a new voice bursting into the conversation. Shiloh, what are you doing? The rest of the group already left. A field trip is not a vacation. We're on a schedule. Startled, your head snapped towards the path. A distinctly unhappy individual, with piercing magenta eyes, dark brown skin, and a sharp jaw stormed your way. He carried a cloud of authority with him, despite he wasn't looking like he was over 18 yet. Sorry, I didn't mean to ditch. Shiloh, whose name was officially not confirmed, gestured with a hand at the explanation of his absence as the stranger watched impatiently. They thought they recognized me as someone they knew, but it was a tiny misunderstanding. Liz, theoretically as well, literally put her foot down at that, coming in frustration, and getting more childish the longer she was around her childhood companion.
Come on.
We do know you! Shiloh merely shrunk in on himself. The tone he spoke was pained. Sorry. You honestly couldn't tell if he was apologizing for the upset feelings of your sister or the palpable dissatisfaction of his new acquaintance. And that itself was very Shiloh-like. Oh, you know him, is that? The stranger spoke in a dismissively scoffing tone, as if the words sounded so absurd to him. It was almost amusing. Almost. But the sternness of his demeanor quickly reinstated itself. Well, do you know me? I'll tell you. I'm someone who has been forced against his will to be aware of what's going on in Shiloh's ridiculous personal life for a year. If the two of you had any importance in his general day-to-day existence, it would have came up by now. Don't bother trying to exaggerate any trivial connection you might have. It's not good enough. He's with us, and you'll survive without him. Now stop loitering in the road. It's rude.
Excuse me?
Excuse me? We're the rude ones? The high-strung ranting got an audible gasp from Shiloh. He finally started to speak up in defense. Nate, that's really mean. It's also true. We're leaving. With that declaration, the unofficially introduced Nate indignantly spun on his heels and walked speedily towards where the group went, completely confident that Shiloh would follow behind. Oh, people can sure have bad attitudes, huh? Why can't they just try to get along? It's not hard. Don't worry though. I bet you don't have to deal with him again. And I'm sorry, I can't stay to talk with you. But I hope you have a really nice life. Bye! And that was that. His final parting words given. Shiloh left the two of you behind to catch up with his own life he had to go live. Liz watched his exit stunned, only to frown when it hit her. He was really gone as quickly as he appeared. It happened so fast, you hadn't even been able to get a word in. She sighed, all the energy she built up releasing with the breath. I could have told him his last name was Fields, his birthday October 30th. That would have proved it, but no. Other than Natus, he sucks. He was so unnecessarily unpleasant when all you wanted to do was talk to someone for a moment. You want to go catch up with him? Liz merely shook her head, pushing off childish thoughts. I think we can leave it there. Thanks. He's in the middle of a high school field trip. It was already enough being able to see him. There's something reassuring about witnessing firsthand that he's still out there, enjoying his own part of the world. Though if given the chance, I could definitely have a few words with him about the company he's got. She laughed, but you could tell it wasn't much humor to it. She was mad that at that guy, even if she was happy to let Charlotte go. Maybe they're only with each other because of the trip. That's not usually how things are.
Right?
True. We can only hope the same for him as he did for us. Have a nice life, Shiloh. We'll miss you. Les smiled at you, and the self-confidence you knew from her so well. Come on, kid, let's finish our own trip. Yeah. No matter how either of you really felt about the occurrence, it was something you simply had to accept. People you know just disappear and reappear in the most unexpected ways. The two of you enjoyed what remained of your outing until it was time to return home. By the time you arrived back, the sun was already beginning to set. You watched your back as you stretched, your arms towards the ceiling. While it had been a good day, it was enough activity to cover an entire week. Let's try to hide a yawn behind her hands. You weren't the only one feeling worn out. I'll be heading upstairs to your room. I mean, the guest room, because mine stopped being available as soon as I was out the door. Her tone was light. She had a lot to say on the subject when you first taken over her bigger room. After all, she left for college, but there had been many trips back home for her since then. The room hasn't been hers for years. It was more of a running joke now, as she continued to bring up the topic to this day. Just wanted to follow in my big sister's shoes. Flattery as a compliment can only go so far, Callie. A small laugh was shared between the two of you, between you and your older sister. You better believe you'll be back in the guest room when you've got your own place, and we're both in town for a visit. We can take turns. You'll have Thanksgiving and I'll get Christmas. What a reasonable and mature suggestion. I'll think about accepting it. She flashed a familiar grin, and you couldn't help but feel glad she was back around, even if it was temporary. With that, she plodded off to the spare room. You were ready to do the same. Moving into a new space was your first opportunity to decorate from scratch. You were really satisfied with the look of your tiny part of the world. As your thoughts drifted, you tried to bite down on another yawn. It was no good. The bed was now lodged in your mind, and all you could think about was collapsing on it. You trudged up the stairs to your room. Stepping inside, you closed the door behind you, blocking out the rest of the house. When you turned back around, you realized you weren't alone there. Comfortably perched on the windowsill was someone very familiar to you. Cove Holden. Huh? Surprise? His tone was easy and relaxed. It certainly was a surprise. You hadn't expected him to be within the state, never mind your own house. He hadn't answered how he suddenly just appeared in Sunset Bird. Though to be fair, you had been so astounded that there hadn't been much of an opportunity for him to chat with you. Thankfully, Cove was only waiting for a good moment to start, and began to explain.
So...
I got in about 15 minutes ago. No one was home, so I figured I would come in the usual way. The window. A small smile had formed on his face. He was still staring at him, unable to blink, in case he disappeared. You could still barely believe that he was really there, a mere feet away from you. I left my bags in your backyard. I hope that's alright. That was when you truly understood. Cove had come straight to you upon getting back to town. You were his first part of call, taking precedence above all else. Even though you hadn't been in when he called, Cove ensured that he would see you at the earliest opportunity, rather than allowing his plans to change. You ran to Cove. Every second away from him was a moment too long. As you approached, Cove quickly hopped from the windowsill to meet you. Trevor's back in town. You pulled him into a bone-crushing hug. Cove managed to squeak as you crushed the air from his lungs. He awkwardly managed to wrap his own arms around your back in return. Taking your shoulders for a pillow, he laid his cheek against you. I missed you. Even if he hadn't said it outright. Ow. Even if he hadn't said it outright, you would have gotten the message from his body language. Cove was grinning widely, his raised cheek buried his eyes, which gleamed like hidden gems. But he looked at you as if you were the most amazing treasure of all. How's the trip? Yeah, I had a good time. A great time. Cove had told you about his trip. Cove told you about how his trip back had gone. His mum was doing really well. She had a project in the works that she was thrilled about. As a result, Cove was going to be sticking around Sunset Bird for the time being. Things were settled as much as they ever could be. With Cove back once more, you felt at ease. Cove stretched his arms out over his head, his eyes on the window, and the world beyond. The sun had set while you were busy reuniting.
Well,
I should probably get myself to see Dad. He glanced over you with a familiar, expectant look. Wanna come with me? You know I do. Cool. Cove began to head to your bedroom door. You followed after him. The two of you casually went down to the ground floor of your house. In all the excitement of Cove's return, you hadn't even remembered the gift you had prepared for when he got back. It'd be best to give him to him now before he left your house. Can you wait here a little while? I've got something for you. Cove's eyes widened as he tried to conceal a smile. He toyed with the collar of his top.
Really?
Really? I mean, you didn't have to do that. He nodded with some eagerness, trying to imagine how he would react when he actually saw it. The gift you had chosen couldn't be something you buy. It was the orange shell he had been entranced with since you were kids. You quickly went up to your room to collect the shell, knowing exactly where to find it. It had been housed in the same box since you were a little kid, after all. Taking great care, you extracted it from the case. Though it had been a long time since you had taken it out, the grooves are still as familiar to your fingertips as the opening line of your favorite song was to your ears. Cove had admired the shell since you first saw it, declaring it to be the best of your treasures. Despite that, he had never accepted your offers to take it. You hoped that might change tonight. You closed your hand around the shell, not wanting Cove to see it until you're ready, and headed back downstairs. When you were right in front of Cove, you cautiously lifted your arm up. He looked on curiously as you unfurled your fingers to show him the gift. I know you don't want to take it from me, but what I want is for you to have it. Cove stared down at the familiar shell nestled in your palm. His mouth parted, though no words came out. His eyes drew up to meet yours, silently as he found the answer to whatever question he couldn't speak. He put his hand over yours and broke the silence. Okay. It was as quiet as a whisper. His fingers were as gentle as his words, brushing against your palm, as he took the shell from your grasp. He cradled it carefully against his chest, and smiled at you, his eyes bright. I'll keep it forever. Cove reverently laid the gift safely on the counter, but he didn't turn to face you once he had ensured it was secure. Though his face was angled away from you, you caught his eyelashes fluttering as if batting away tears. His throat bobbed as he swallowed, bubbling of emotions. You knew that Cove could be sentimental. The gift and all the memories and feelings tied up in it seemed to have taken a toll on him. When he began to sniffle, you felt the need to reach out. Huh? I can't. Hallie, I don't know what to do. He forcefully scrubbed at his eyes, like he was trying to push the tears that friend spilled back in. Oh, Cove. It's okay. Do you need to cry? No. Nevertheless, tears began to spill down his cheeks. Even as he wiped them away, more took their place. Thank you. His voice quavered as he spoke. Cove scooped you into a hug, pressing you so tightly against his chest that your breath escaped in a short squeak. He burrowed his face in your neck, his shed tears damp upon your skin. You hugged him back. You're welcome. Cove let out a steady breath. It was far removed from the shaky gasps that had accompanied his sniffles. The tears had dried. His eyes were a little red, but open, and at peace once again. He smiled fully recovered from the emotion that had overcome him. You're really seriously too nice to me. You smiled back. I don't think there's such a thing as too nice when it comes to you. I brushed his hand against the pale ghost of the scar on his arm. He was at a loss what to do now. The clock ticked away, counting seconds of silence. Once you had a chance to tell your thoughts, you figured you would tell Cove the intriguing news. I meant to tell you earlier. I saw Shiloh today.
Huh?
Shiloh? I repeated the name, his expression blank. From when we were kids. Cove pondered for a moment, then snapped his fingers. Oh, he was that freckly boy from that first summer. The one who moved. I met a guy named Shiloh. He looked just like Shiloh. We knew, plus however many years. But he didn't remember me and just left. Cove frowned. That's, I don't know. Too bad I missed it. Though you knew him better than I did. That was definitely true. Not only Cove known Shiloh for a shorter period of time, but he and Shiloh never quite got along. But they were enemies either. Just kids who were only ever together because of other people they both knew. Wonder what Shiloh was up to these days. I don't have any idea. Didn't say much.
Oh
well. That was everything you had on that news item. So you moved on to the next big update. Also, you know the mean old neighbors? The ones who would always yell at us. He cringed, recalling those particular memories of back in the day. It was not pleasant, even for someone as nostalgic as him. Yeah? They're not coming. They didn't rent the condo this summer. Cove's jaw dropped. He didn't blame him. The elderly couple that had been at the institution for as far back as you could remember, long predating Cove's arrival. Even now as a teenager, you found your neck prickling as you walked by their condo, half expecting a scolding for breathing the wrong way in the vicinity of their vacation home. It was strange to think of that coming to an end. Wow. Cove blinked, clearly struggling with the idea in the same way you had. I didn't see that coming. People being gone, people coming back. Feels like I missed a lot. This has been a busy summer already. Well, you haven't missed the fireflies. They haven't shown up yet. Well, that's something. We better not get left behind. There's still stuff to do. He nodded. The two of you headed out and traced the most familiar path you'd ever walked. The trip across the road over to Cove's house. It seemed that no sooner had the night begun than it was already at an end, and the dawn of a new day was soon upon you. The next morning, your belly was full of breakfast and you were in a pleasant mood. You hoped the rest of the day would follow suit. Later, you were meeting up with your friends, Cove, Miranda, and Terry, to go into town. It was all on short notice, but that was because everyone was so excited that Cove was finally back home. Having a nice daydream? You blinked, pushing all your thoughts away and returning to reality. Your mum was watching you with a teasing smile.
Alright.
So, what's on the agenda today? I mean, that was some people. Well, I hope you and your friends have fun. Don't get into too much trouble. You winked at you. You knew both of your mums wanted you to enjoy this bit of summer before all the big changes started. I'll try.
That'd be great.
But before you go gallivanting around town, could you bring in the mail in? I'm finishing putting these dishes away over here. Alright. Thanks very much. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing in the road. They noticed you too. As soon as you were outside your front door, you couldn't help but see Cove and his dad standing around in the road. They noticed you too.
Hey.
Hey there, Callie. Hi, good timing. You should come join us. You hugged him. Following your lead, Cove hugged you back. He held on for a few seconds longer after you let go. His eyes shone brightly at you when you did part, sending your heart aflutter. And then, as Cove's cheeks flushed, he couldn't quite meet your gaze. He didn't speak, but you felt that if he did, he would be tripping over his own tongue. You noticed Mr. Holden was taking in the scene of you and Cove with a self-satisfied smile. Cove followed your line of sight and showed his dad an unimpressed look. For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he thought of dancing on the tip of... For a moment, Mr. Holden seemed like he had a thought dancing on the tip of his tongue, but decided to keep it to himself. So, what are you up to today? As far as I know, nothing too much. Me and Cove meeting up with some friends in town later. Sounds like a plan to me. Yawning, Mr. Holden stretched his arms over his head. My boy and I have just been waiting around to see what the new neighbors are like. It was definitely his idea. I don't know how you're not interested in this. It's big news. Besides, it'd only be polite to greet the new folks in town. Yes, I'm dying to see the newcomers. Callie gets it. Cove raised an eyebrow. Really? You too? Yeah, it could be anyone. The beach attracts all kinds of people. I thought about your words for a second, and then nodded, understandingly.
I guess.
Mr. Holden took one more glance at the currently vacant building, and sighed dramatically. When he turned back to you and Cove, his whole body seemed deflated. There's no sign of them, and I still need to head over to work soon. Cove gave his dad a reassuring pat on the back. Okay, I promise to keep an eye out. I can text you if anything happens. Really?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, only until I have to meet up with Terry and Miranda. Would that still work? With a wide grin breaking out on his face, Mr. Holden looked absolutely thrilled to have his noses enabled. That works! He moved to firmly place both hands over Cove's shoulder, fixing his child with a firm stare. Son, you are my true ally in this world. Mr. Holden stood up straight to letting Cove go. He looked reinvigorated. Okay. With that settled, I'll go make money. That's always been the one thing I do best. Mr. Holden headed off to the garage with a big wave goodbye. Cove smiled the whole time you both watched his dad leave. Mr. Holden was one of your favorite people. He always tried his best, and it was honestly just great. As soon as he was out of sight, Cove sighed lightly. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not looking forward to waiting. I guess I'll be hanging around the street a while. Why don't I stay to see the new neighbor and keep you company? Curiosity about the new tenant was getting the better of you, and you figured that the wait wouldn't be too much longer. Besides, you couldn't just leave Cove. Really? Yeah, of course. I ain't keeping you company, remember? He stared at you for a moment, smiling softly, and thinking about his response.
Me too.
I like that too. Cove put his hands on his shoulders, gripping you solidly, but not enough to hurt. His eyes fixated on you just as firmly. He was serious. Callie, you are my true ally in the world. In this world. I got a fair amount of chuckles from you. He grinned, the stoicism fading into amusement.
Thank you.
You're always good to me. You're lucky to have me. Teasingly, Cove raised an eyebrow. You're the most lucky guy in Sunset Bird. Luckiest. For a moment you weren't sure if Cove was laughing at your declaration. Although you momentarily forgot the word luckiest. Either way, you didn't mind. The smile on his face reached his eyes, and it made you feel electric. Then he let you go. Cove stepped over to his front porch lazily, taking a seat and leaning back on his arms. Our watch begins. During an agreement, you joined Cove on the front porch steps. You both sat there in a comfortable familiarity as you settled in for the waiting game from the new tenants. Out the neighborhood was quiet, and you sighed contently, closing your eyes and feeling the light breeze. The only sounds you could hear was the familiar jingle of Cove's wind chime. After all of these years, it was still there, adorning the entrance outcropping of his house. Eventually, you both backed up at the sound of the car. A taxi followed the noise, turning onto your street. Cove's eyebrows raised at that sight, and he sat up straight on the stoop.
Oh?
This has to be them, right? Yeah, it's gotta be. You leaned forward, sitting on the edge of the front step. You couldn't wait to finally put an end to the suspense and get a look at the new neighbor. The taxi pulled to a stop, as you expected in front of the now empty condo. It was on the same side of the street as your house, a few buildings further up. Now getting to his feet, Cove tried leaning and tilting his head to get a view of the passenger door as it opened. A single occupant exited the cab. Huh. You could feel what Cove was in that moment. After the last renters, this new visitor was definitely not what you expected. It was a young man that had to be close to your age. He was fully dressed in eclectic, black and white and grey outfit. Even his side-swooping hair matched the scheme. The only other pop of colour was from something that couldn't easily be fashioned into the submission. A pair of dark brown eyes, which you caught when he looked over at his audience. Hello, folks. Who might you be? We're the neighbors. The smile already prominent on his face curled further. It was cocky, but you didn't get the impression it meant something adverse. Hallelujah. You and Cove shared a familiar look with one another, but we'll do it even further. The color-coordinated man left it there. However, with a firm click, he shut the door of his ride, and he turned his back to you to retrieve a large, unsurprisingly black suitcase out of the trunk. Continuing on with his own business, he strolled forward and lightly tapped the driver's side window with his knuckles, asking them to roll it down. When it opened, he leaned down, resting his arm on the edge. You assumed that he was thanking the driver for getting him there, considering he slipped them a tip during the brief chat. They shook hands, and then he pushed himself up and away from the taxi with both arms, giving the driver room to leave. The taxi pulled away, rolling carefully down the road and out of sight, around the corner. The new renter has officially arrived. He left his suitcase on the ground out of the way of the street, and sauntered over to join you with the confidence of someone who had been invited to join. Cove finally stood up to greet this person. You followed suit.
Excellent.
I'm Baxter Ward. It's excellent to meet you neighbors. You were standing on the side when he was approaching from. He was standing on the side he was approaching from. When Baxter got close enough, he offered his hand to you first. You held your arms open to offer a hug instead. Baxter didn't miss a beat, and embraced you round the back, giving a light squeeze. Hi, Baxter. I'm Callie. Hey, Callie. I'm quite keen on getting to know you better this summer. We could be good friends. From the other side, Cove made a sudden sputtering noise. And you lifted his hand to Cove next. Cove shook his hand, still eyeing Baxter carefully. I'm Cove. Baxter's whole demeanor lit up for unknown reasons. His eyes shone as he studied Cove for a moment.
Really?
Now wait, is that a nickname or your real name? It's just my name. Cove spoke mildly, having given that explanation many times in the past. But it clearly charmed Baxter all the same. He tossed his head to one side with a laugh. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. I can't imagine more fitting name for a face I'm seeing. Cove. That's gorgeous.
What?
It's really not. No, I agree. It suits you.
Not bad.
It's nice to see someone else. It's nice to see someone else knows the impact might have faded for you, living with it this long. But I promise on the outlook it's a knockout. Cove couldn't face either of you after that. His cheeks were quickly turning bright red with embarrassment. You noticed Baxter looked apologetic over Cove's increased discomfort. I'm sorry. It wasn't intended to be mean more than it did. I like your name, but you don't have to mind that. I'm patently stepping against I'm patently against stepping on anyone's toes. He chuckled to himself. It seemed like there was some extra meaning hidden there in his words, and you noticed that Cove raised an eyebrow, picking up on that too. Baxter stood up straighter, striking a slight pose with the position of his feet. He began to speak, but then stopped and closed his mouth. He became absorbed in his own thoughts, tapping a finger to the side of his chin as he stared at you. He shot Cove a confused glance. He shrugged in response. After a few moments, Baxter had that same smile curl from before. He removed the index finger from his face and used it to point directly at you. We've met before.
What?
What? When? Baxter continued to smile wildly. His head tilted slightly to the side as he studied your visage. It's embarrassing. I haven't remembered that part yet. He laughed cordially while Cove stared at him in disbelief. Baxter chuckled further, mouth growing at what might have been a very amusing situation in his mind. I'm getting there. Don't tell me. I know you want to, but do not. It will come to me. He continued looking you up and down, hand over his chin while he racked his brain for answers. And then recognition appeared in his eyes. With a snap of his fingers, he announced his revelation, as though he had forgotten his own birthday. The Cypress! At the summer soiree! Of course! Turning away from you, Baxter began rambling to himself about the details. That had been before any regionals. So, at the time, I was about 14 years old. That makes it 5 years ago from now, right? Cove's mouth fell open.
Seriously?
Are you kidding me? Is he serious? Did you really meet this guy at a country club party 5 years ago? You certainly had. You never forgotten the mystery boy. You weren't sure what to say or what to do. He'd appeared in front of you so unexpectedly then, and he'd done it again now. Cove's eyes darted between you and Baxter again. The investigator of this discussion lightly gestured with his hands in response. It's good not to forget a face. You see, my parents are members of the Cypress. They happened to be passing through on a trip in different states when they heard about the event.
To be honest,
Funnily enough, the entire reason they joined was for the connections they could make with other members there. Looks like the perk has finally hit for me too. Originally I thought this was only any good since I could occasionally dance there. Baxter suddenly stopped and stood up straighter. He grinned. Dance, oh yes. That's what I was gonna say. I'm a ballroom dancer, hence the phrasing earlier. Oh. I don't know much about dancing, but that's pretty cool. It's not hard once you get the basics down. Cove didn't look convinced at all. Baxter took that as a cue to keep talking. Well, he grinned in a way that was rapidly becoming familiar to you. If either of you are looking for a partner, I'm available. Cove frowned at the overt forwardness. Thanks. I'll pass, I think. I'll take you up on that offer sometime. I look forward to that then. After that, there was a lull in conversation, and Cove attempted to fill it in.
So,
what made you decide on Sunset Bird? Oh, well. Oh yes, well, my parents rented a condo, so I had a place to stay while I'm off for the semester from college, and not living in the dorms. There was a playful glint in Baxter's eyes as he continued.
honestly,
Ideally, they wanted to send me somewhere that wasn't too exciting, but luckily for me, they picked the wrong street, considering the two of you live here. Cove was practically reeling over how Baxter found a way to fit comments like that into every single topic thus far. Why do you keep doing that? You don't know us, but you talk like you already do. Cove spoke fun yet genuinely confused. And Baxter smiled curiously. I don't feel the need to keep words of praise to myself, and when I say something, I mean it.
see?
Besides, what's the point of spending my off semester alone? The best part of being someone new is getting to interact with the new people. Am I honestly the first person who's acknowledged you're attractive and intriguing people? True, you're hidden away in a little tourist trap, but still. Baxter crossed his arms, after studying your faces a few more seconds, and decided to continue. Am I only trying to score a hookup or get a romantic fling starting by saying those things? No. That isn't the point of speaking well of others. I was raised better than that. Though, would I be fussed if that's what my words led to? Also no. I am flexible, not a surprise. I can back off with the lines if you don't like the attention. I would like to be friends if we can. I wasn't sure how to respond. He glanced at you, and he continued to look at your face when he spoke. Thanks for answering. I'm not interested in any of that with you. Maybe another friend thing. But the other part. It doesn't bother me. Glad we're working things out. He shifted his weight to his other foot. Baxter tried to move forward.
So,
Since you're both already out here, did my arrival interrupt anything? Definitely not. You told Baxter that you were both waiting to see who was going to move in. The condo hasn't had a new renter in my entire life. We wanted to see who was moving in now. Baxter laughed at that, immensely pleased with your response. I'm getting a reputation in this town already. Not bad. Well, if either of you are free, I'll be thrilled to hang out this summer, but we can save the schedule talk for later. I should get my things inside. He gave a small nod of the head and flashed you both a dazzling smile.
goodbye.
Goodbye for today. Bye. Cove gave a small wave as well. Bye, Baxter. See you. Baxter then turned on his heels and strolled back to his suitcase, picking it up and bringing it to his condo. You and Cove were silent as Baxter unlocked the door and disappeared inside the house. With him completely out of the scene, Cove let out a long breath.
Well,
I don't know how I'm going to explain that guy to my dad. You burst into a fit of laughter, trying to imagine the conversation. So, you like when people say that sort of stuff about people. It's okay to do it. Never mind. It's, at least the job is done. We saw the new neighbor. Now we can go meet up with Terry and Miranda. Yeah. We should get going. You gave Baxter's condo one last glance over your shoulder. You were looking forward to seeing more of him. Baxter was different, but you liked him. Smiling, you hoped that he would become a good friend this summer. Turning your attention back to Cove, you pushed all thoughts of Baxter aside. You both started making your way towards the town. A little while later, you and Cove reached a main street in town. All of a sudden, you stopped walking. What's wrong? I think I heard my phone. You took your cell phone out and looked at it with a satisfied grin. There was a new message. Before you could read it, you were distracted by a small amused noise from Cove. His head was tilted to the side as he carefully looked at your old keychain. I can't believe you still have that. Well, someone was crazy enough to get it for me, so I may as well use it. You grinned, looking at the keychain fondly. He laughed, remembering the day he brought it for you.
It's nice.
I'm actually glad you like it. He looked back at you with a playful grin. Especially since it cost me a whole $6. That's like $30 in kid money. His matter-of-fact tone had you laughing deep. It took several moments to compose yourself enough to speak. I didn't realize I was the going rate. It was then. Probably more now. So you're trying to say that you're a big spender? In kid money, yes. I was definitely a high roller, remember? That had you both burst into fits. Smiling, you refocused on the task at hand. You opened the new text from Miranda, and all you saw was, I can see you. Immediately from where you stood, you started to swivel your head around. You couldn't spot Miranda anywhere, but she did send you more messages. Haha, I see you looking. Really, Randy? The message was sent, and you were back to looking around, scanning for any sign of movement and familiar faces, but they were still invisible. Cove looked at you carefully, raising an eyebrow. Miranda, come on out! Cove jumped a bit at your sudden outburst. He raised an eyebrow and looked at you carefully. What's happening? Before you could begin explaining anything to Cove, you both snapped your attention to the yelling across the street. And then you saw Miranda and Terry coming out from the backside of the grocery store. They both started waving wildly to draw more attention to themselves. Cove took a step in their direction, grinning. He put his hands around his mouth to better project his message across the street. Hey! Laughing and arm in arm, the girls stopped only to look both ways and then rushed across the empty street.
Hi.
Hi! Hope you weren't waiting too long.
Hey, buddies.
Hey, buddies! Hi. Hey, I'm so happy to see you two. Now that they were here, their joke on you was already long forgotten in your mind. Harry and Miranda giggled, smiling wide at your declaration. Harry then closed the distance between her and Cove, and crushed him in a painfully tight hug. You're finally here! It's been so long! What took you? It is best to eke out a reply with his chest being compressed. Sorry. Eventually, she let him go. Terry looked at him with a beaming smile, but Cove was distracted, rubbing his arms. Standing there, Miranda shifted her weight to her other hip. He watched Cove patiently with a bashful smile. Welcome back. Thanks. It felt official. Everyone was together in one place. From here, you weren't sure how often you would have another afternoon like this again. They didn't either.
Oh?
Cove? Harry poked Cove square in the chest. You're gonna have to get me your schedule by this time yesterday.
No way.
Not really possible, Terry. I can say as soon as I know. So far, work hasn't said anything, but I can tell you I'm busy with orca activities. When Cove wasn't at his part-time job or pursuing his academic interests, he volunteered at the Ocean Restoration California affiliation. Orca. The group focused on cleaning up beaches, removing pollution from the ocean. Cove always loved the sea. It didn't surprise you one bit when he started getting involved with them. It was Cove's activity. That big smash event is coming up, right? No. You were an Orca member and introduced Cove to it. The big smash event for the year is coming up, isn't it? Yeah, there's not much more to do before then, but I'm kind of looking forward to the fundraising push. Hopefully we can pull it off. If anyone can, it's you two. And even if it goes really bad, it'll still look good on a college application at least. That's true.
Hey!
Hey, what else? Hey, guess what else? We don't have to stand here and say stuff. Let's go. I would like a meal now. Packing up, Cove nodded in agreement. Yeah, for sure. Four of you headed into town, happily chatting the whole way. The only decision was left was where to exactly stop and eat. Miranda was the first to offer a suggestion.
So...
I don't know about everyone else, but I'd like a chow mein. Chinese is fine with me. Entirely serious, Terry nodded. That'd be amazing right about now. That wouldn't have been your choice, but it was already 3 against 1. The group lazily wandering shifted to a purposeful journey. Just like that. As Terry predicted, the conversation was able to continue while on the way to food. You and Cove finished explaining what was coming up with your orca fundraising efforts. All the talk about beaches reminded Terry of her own personal goals. He had been considering getting lifeguard training. Kelly and Cove can keep our oceans clean, and I could keep it safe. So, such selflessness was inspiring the listeners, though Terry butted in before anyone was too impressed.
No way.
Don't be proud of me yet. I haven't signed up. Laughter burst out of the little crowd. Miranda turned to chat about her life next. She picked out some 5-weekend summer course at a community college. They won't be starting until later in the month. It was exciting though. Not content speaking solely of herself for long, Miranda mentioned good news for someone. Specifically that her older brother Jude had a boyfriend. You vaguely knew who Jude was, but even though you'd been friendly with Miranda for 5 years, he was already in an out-of-state college back then. He was in his mid-20s, you were pretty sure of that. What you knew for certain was that he owned his place with a real career and everything. Jude existed in a whole another stage of life than you, and hanging out with his little sister's friends had never been on his to-do list. Now that was an accomplishment worth being taken in by Terry, who had it, and Miranda, who said it, were equally dazed. He's been single for a few years now. It kinda seems like he just wasn't interested in anyone. That was true, basically. There wasn't anyone here for him. He's dating a friend he's known online for a long time. They've been playing games together since college. This is my theory, but he might not have dated anyone else because all he wanted was to hang out with that good friend. But no one ever say that to him. He never hinted that there might be a thing until one day they were suddenly dating. But besides that, what's funny is I don't even know his name. You didn't talk about him to us until they had already known each other forever. Jude just started talking about him all the time. He just calls him Grant.
Huh?
Is his name not Grant? It's not. It's an inside joke about how they talked about school grants one time. When they first becoming friends. They thought it was funny how Grant was also a name. And they were going, oh, I bet Grant could get a grant. Then it escalated to a joke about Grant being named after some person called Grant. His friend made Grant his username for everything, and it still is to today. You barely had a concept of Miranda's brother, and that one explanation was everything you knew about his boyfriend. But the story gave a real impression of who they were. Wow. Godspeed, Judy. Never let Grant go. That's nice. I bet they're really happy. I support you, Jude and Grant.
Thank you.
Thanks. Trying to follow the incredible story of Grant proved difficult. Miranda trailed off. The current conversation was, well, truly over, so Cove took a chance to speak. This has been on my mind the whole time, but there was never a good chance to mention it before. What is it? There's a new person renting a condo in our neighborhood. Really? From one tale of an unusual character to another, Cove spoke of Baxter Ward as if he was a local legend. His name is Baxter. He's in college, though he doesn't look like he's much older than us. Maybe Miranda's age. He's not going to be what you expect, no matter how you try to guess. The description put Terry on the edge of a non-existent seat, and she was about to fall off it somehow.
What?
A new man in town who's our age? Cove Holden has been holding out on us as usual. I won't guess. You tell me what he's like. He's a charmer. I can't wait to see him again. Intriguing. He added more onto your initial description with a couple of thoughts of his own. More expansion was required to make it make sense of any of it.
I mean...
Baxter is, bold. He says whatever he wants. He dresses dramatically. Everything on him is black and white, even his hair. Huh. Could have been correct. That kind of man had not been considered in the realm of possibilities for Miranda and Terry. But I don't care that he has style, or that he's not shy. What I don't get is the way he is so impressed by strangers who have done nothing. He said he wanted to hang out with us, me and Callie, this summer, and all this other stuff. And that was the very first time we met. I have no idea why he cares, or why it's so easy for him to say that to people he knows nothing about. So, you got his number?
No.
No. Cove's eyes squinted, his nostrils squished inward from the incredulous scrunch that the suggestion had given him. Considering the picture had been painted, he couldn't understand why Terry would imagine anything like that had happened. I wish! Then do it. You should too, Cove. You don't meet a social butterfly like that every day. The black and white color scheme has proved he's a rare specimen.
Ooh.
This Baxter is flapping around town, coming to appreciate our two good buds, Kelly and Cove. Right? Like flower buds, and he's the butterfly. Harry, that pun is such a stretch. Well, he sounds like my kind of guy. We could always use more friends. I'm not sure about that one. It's as shaky as your butt metaphor. This was escalating. The more fired up Terry got, the more Cove and Miranda wanted to shield themselves from the inverse. I know what you mean, Terry. The group of four was split evenly between the sociable and the shy. That was drawn clearly with this discussion. No longer moving forward, Harry stood there with her hands on her hips.
I'm on it.
I'm gonna meet Baxter, right now. Cove completely stalled, except his lips, which sputtered a response. Before getting food. I know the way. You go ahead. I'll be back before food hits the table. You'll see it. Harry's light chuckles contrasted massively with the hefty sigh from Cove. You're actually gonna go to a stranger's house and ask for his number. That's the plan. Yeah? Why are you gonna be like this? If I wasn't like this, me and you would never have been friends ourselves. And I probably wouldn't have been friends with Randy either. I don't live in this town. I can't miss an opportunity to connect. Otherwise, that'd mean leaving it up to chance or fate's ability. Leaving it up to chance or fate or Cove's ability to have a relationship progress on his own. I don't have all year for that. He'll be gone before then.
We're cool.
Not to insult you for going slow, Cove. You're good the way you are. Baxter can be a butterfly and you can be a snail. There was affection in Terry's extended metaphor, but Cove still frowned at the almost certainly correct assessment of how his connection with Baxter was going to develop.
No.
I don't like snails. How about being a sea turtle then? Okay, I'm a turtle. Good, you can accept that. Order me a General Tso's chicken. I'll get his number. Inspired by the name of her meal, or perhaps her meal was inspired by the mission, Harry gave a military salute before flipping around. Brenda and Cove watched in disbelief. You darted after her. Harry! Cove gave a halting yell, but he had no intention of stopping you. He just had more foresight than you in that instance. What were we supposed to order for you then? Oh. You slowed your pace way down and glanced over your shoulder. You called out, I don't want anything.
Alright.
Okay. He let you go, and you found, when you looked ahead, that Harry had stopped in her tracks. He waited for you after the Cove announced your intention to join.
Thanks.
I knew you were a bud. The trip back wasn't long. You barely left your neighborhood before the announcement of this change of plans. There was no time to lose. Together you sped down the sidewalk, around the bend, and in only a few minutes you returned to the ever-familiar sloped street. Harry's speed took her halfway down the road, smack dab between your houses and Cove's. It was a force of habit. Which is his? She asked the question so naturally. You almost missed realizing that she wouldn't have known where to go, even if you hadn't decided to come after her. Almost. But you wanted to see Baxter. It worked out for the both of you. You pointed a finger towards one of the rectangular houses back higher up on the hill as she passed right by. That's it. Ooh, glad you're here. Let's go. He hoofed it in reverse, upward to what had been the Forbidden Fortress. Though in the former danger that haunted those halls had been released. Instead, it was claimed by a proper gentleman. Terry fearlessly rang the doorbell. He never understood the true terror of the Donalds, but one might think there would be some hesitation in action. After all, she was still approaching a house of someone so unfamiliar to her. He hadn't known which house was it. But they would have thought wrong. Terry remained fully confident in the decision. He stood at her side, with hardly more justification to be doing this. The door opened, and there was the man you met 30 minutes ago. Baxter had said goodbye for today when he left then. What an overestimation of how long it would be before you once again show him your face. Oh! He must have believed when he said he'd be seeing you. He must have believed what he said, because seeing you raised his brow and a questioning edge in his exclamation. Why were you back? After the initial recognition, though, his features all smoothed out onto his default expression, lidded eyes and a curved smile.
My pleasure.
Callie, it's a pleasure to see you. And you? Baxter's head angled squarely at Terry's. It was a playful tilt. You weren't there before. Still keeping his face turned to Terry, his deep brown eyes shifted towards you. Callie must be popular to have a rotating collection of company. I expected as much. Baxter blinked, and it was as if he had never taken focus from Terry for even a second. His attention was on her so fixedly. He held out a hand decorated with sleek black rings to her, then gave a cordial introduction.
Nice to see you.
I'm Baxter Ward. How nice to meet you. The offered hand received a sprightly slap, a side high five in place of a shake. I'm Terry, a friend of your neighbor's. His interest was piqued. Baxter was far less assertively lurked between the individuals making a house call, trying to gauge the motivation for it. With no hints to go off, he settled for asking directly.
How are you?
I see. What can I do for you? My neighbor and a friend of my neighbor's. Harry was going to come either way, but I thought I'd check in. Is the condo nice? It's lovely. His voice was distinctly sweet and soft. The tone might have been born from a simple appreciation of the condo. Or it might have been because you cared to ask. The quality of lodging was irrelevant to how happy he was to answer. Callie here, and Cove not here, talked about you moving in for the summer. It sounded cool to me. I decided to see you in your black and white hair myself. The reason people were unexpectedly at his doorstep had been revealed. Max's response to such intrusion was pleased. He instinctively brushed a few strands of his dyed hair, smiling all the while. Well, thank you. You sounded cool, and you are. Let's all numbers.
Really?
Really, this town is truly neighborly. I'm not from this place. Terry's reason for seeing him was far more tenuous than Baxter assumed. She didn't live in the neighborhood, or the next one past, or anywhere in Sunset Bird. She laughed heartily over it. Baxter snickered much more wirily. Neither of them had a care in the world. Then, it's the social circle from wherever they come from that's so friendly. Even better. Does that mean I can have your number?
Certainly.
That'll be excellent.
Alright.
Good. Harry pulled out her cracked cell. Baxter did the same thing at the same time. His phone case was black and white. No surprises there. They hovered close to each other, bent over the screens, and tapping away. After a mistypo or two, the numbers were exchanged. Thank you. Welcome. You can have mine too, and I can add you to my contacts. His head remained bowed, but his gaze lifted towards you. His cheeks went up as well, in a sparkling smile. Of course, I'd love that. Baxter waited for you to get your info out, and he repeated his number. You got it down and then gave yours in return. The contact name on his list was Callie, across the street, with an exclamation point.
Perfect.
Perfect. He slid his phone into his back pocket.
Honestly.
I must admit, I was not expecting this vacation to go as well as it has. Even with a generous estimation of my sociability, I imagined I would need a week or more to find someone to exchange numbers with. Instead, I have 2 new friends the very instant I arrived. Oh, Baxter, this isn't even all. Since you met me, Callie, and Cove, it's only a matter of time before you'll meet Miranda too. And there's still Liz, obviously. Maybe Lee will even make an appearance. The news of more strangers being invited into Baxter's vacation had no visible impact on him. He replied content and calm. I look forward to that. I look forward to all of that. As you should. Now, we need to make haste. There are other matters we must attend to. Lunch awaits. That was one way to put it. Baxter's formal tone seemed to be rubbing off on Terry.
See you.
Ah, then I won't keep you. I hope to see you again soon. So, please feel free to text or call anytime. Have a good day. Same. Exactly. Enjoy your day too. Go on, Callie. Like 2 shots, you went up off the road. Baxter didn't move an inch from the entryway as you left. Neither you nor Terry spoke from the race to the restaurant. The clock was ticking. Every second longer you took could be another drop in degrees of warmth of Terry's meal. You stopped to catch your breath only when you were under the shaded awning of the Chinese restaurant. Terry wiped her fully exposed forehead with her palm.
Finally!
Making friends works up an appetite. Yep, good thing we're about to eat. You entered the building together leisurely, pretending to be normal people who arrived for lunch in a totally reasonable way. Terry explained to the hostess up front that a table should already be prepared for her, with you with 2 friends. One who's short and in shorts, cute, freckled, with big purple eyes and a lacy top. He's shy, but probably wouldn't say much. The hostess politely stopped Terry's babbling with a raise of hand before she even began to describe Cove. That was plenty to get the idea across. You were directed to the center of the dining area. Miranda and Cove were there. Speaking quietly in front of them was nothing more than 4 cups of water and a plate of 3 spring rolls. The dish was supposed to have 4, but as sure as Baxter loved black and white, you knew it was Cove who had ate the one that was missing. Even if food technically ended up in Cove's stomach before the 2 of you had arrived, an appetizer had to be cheating. Terry meant the main course, and it was not there, and you could still take it as a win. She silently did. Hey, we made it!
Hey!
Terry, Callie, hi! Graces lingered on Cove's face, showing that he had been worried about the results of the unexpected pit stop, until the moment you both arrived. But since you strolled out so victoriously, he was reassured enough to already joke about it. You barely made it, you know. We ordered a while ago, and this appetizer is already here. Close, but making it is making it. Did my good friends get what I requested? The sudden premise of Terry's speech was lost to Miranda. She didn't understand that a bit of Baxter had been brought to the restaurant with the 2 of you. Yeah, I got it. I don't know if it's General So's or So's. Chicken. Words are weird. And complex. Thanks.
Thank you!
Oh yeah. Thank you. One of the empty seats was finally filled as Terry plopped down, satisfied after a job well done. You took the last remaining chair. So, did you actually see him and get his number? We did. Kirk glanced your way, his wavy brows raised in surprise. We was clearly a word that was on his mind. You continued with comfortable ease. I got his number too.
Huh.
Wow. The group had settled into its usual rhythm when your proper meals arrived a few minutes later. You waited and talked, and not once did the topic return to the element of the unknown. Baxter Ward. But he did remain stuck in the corner of your mind. After many seasons in this sleepy town, you'd have expectations of what the summer of 2016 would look like. It had been all too easy to imagine. Sure, you graduated high school, but your life wasn't going to be the same anymore. But it was too soon for that to warp the existence you had for over a decade. At least you thought so. And yet there was Baxter. He was something you could not counted. He was something you're not counted in a single one of your vacation plans. You couldn't have until barely an hour ago. Notice the number was on your phone. A new world, one you had no grasp on, was already poking its way into your old routine, and it had come in the form of a black and white ballroom dancer. You were lucky. The final days of comfort had gone, but the first sight beyond that was a charming young man asking you to spend time together. The rest of the afternoon and evening passed by in a blink of an eye. When night fell, it was time to go. It was time to head home, and you parted ways with Miranda and Harry. You and Cove reached your neighborhood without event. It was late enough that your out-of-the-way street was dark and silent. You strolled with a skip in your step. Days like today, filled with good food and good company, left you feeling energized. As you walked alongside Cove, you peered at his face out of the corner of your eyes. You wondered why he felt so distant to you. It was out of character. For a while, Cove silently stared ahead and left you alone with your thoughts. It will surprise you when you did hear his voice all of a sudden. He still wouldn't look at you. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get things like they're the same. It feels weird coming back to the neighborhood and trying to get into things like they're the same. And they're not. They've changed. They're still changing. Your mouth felt uncomfortably dry all of a sudden. It was true. The things that kept people you knew together were starting to disappear. Each person had to make their priorities and their own paths, now that wasn't set for them. You thought about your own immediate future. You were still on that yourself. You wanted to go to school part-time, to work full-time, and to focus on time that's not school or work. Now it's basics. For a career, you thought you'd start your own business, do contract work, find a company to work at, and that was all. For your education, you thought you'd go to a private college, and that was all. For yourself, you wanted to work on self-improvement on your own, and take some time to just relax, and that was all. And for that, you wanted to stay local. It would all be happening so soon. You already applied to schools and jobs, and you kept all this to yourself. Now that you wondered what Cove had in mind, you had him consider some things for his future, but it was never anything that would have counted as a real plan. Making it back home, you both stopped in the middle of the street. Both sighed. Both looked at the ground for a moment. His mouth trembled, trying to settle on the right words to say.
So,
what do you think you're going to do now, for the future? You didn't tell him. Cove closed his eyes and nodded, while composed his thoughts. He looked at you when you lifted his head. I decided on something. Well, kind of. He smiled slightly, and rubbed his arm, and then his expression grew more serious. I'm not going to decide on a school or a career. Not this summer. I'm going to stay here, at least in Sunset Bird. I'll probably move out of my dad's place. I'll keep working my job, keep doing my volunteer stuff and everything else.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll know what I want for myself by fall next year. Or maybe I'll never have a plan. Life will continue with whatever's happening. I'm not gonna crush myself trying to have everything figured out by a timeline that someone else has set. I just can't do it. His brow furrowed, and his tone was tense. It was clear how much his expectations were weighing on him.
I guess
it'll be me and you, right here a while longer. His eyes were glossy. You weren't going to be separated, and that meant a very great deal to him. Your plan sounds very you. Cove grinned. He looked relieved that you understood. I think so too. I'll see you tomorrow, Kelly. I'll see you. Night. He pulled you into an unexpected hug. It knocked the breath out of you. Yet, you couldn't have been more reassured. Couldn't have been more reassured feeling. You returned his embrace and stayed that way for as long as you could.
Good night.
Night. He finally let go, giving you another smile. Then Cove started walking away, but you remained there, frozen in the middle of the street. You watched him and wondered how many more times would he be able to say that he'll see you tomorrow. You hoped for countless more times. Finally, you turned towards your house. You vowed to yourself that you would make the most of every moment you had of this summer. And that is the transitional period sorted. We now have our moments. We have hang, errands, talks, charity drive, reflection, late shifts, serendipity, voting, happiness to do. And then, like we did with Derek's DLC, we're going to be doing our little episodes with Baxter. You guys can read this. And as you can see, we have sightseeing hang again, but we're doing Baxter's route for hang, even if we select it on the main page. Drinks, mountain, and planning. Now, this is all going to be really fun, and I'm excited to be able to move forwards with this. My plan for this is that we're going to be having a romance with Baxter, because there'll be some stuff that I want to explore with that in step 4. Because, like I said, we're going to be doing Derek, Cove, and Baxter's endings. Because I'm going to have a save file for that. So, that's going to be exciting for me to do. I believe I said I was going to start with Cove, then go on to Baxter, and then Derek, but I'm not actually sure if I'm going to confirm with that just yet. Considering I do have a DLC for Cove, which means that's going to be a little bit longer than, well, usual. So, yeah. I think that's it for now. I'm not too sure what ones I'm going to do just yet together. I do want to pair some DLCs with non-DLCs. Except, I'm going to... I know what one I'm starting, not my Derek series, we've just been working with Derek for so long. I know what one I'm starting my Baxter series with, and that will be sightseeing. Because that's how we get into the relationship, and I want to do that one first, so everything else is like, I'm in the relationship with Baxter, going down further in the series. But with enough of that being said, this was an incredibly long video, and I apologize for that, but there's not much I can do when it's a transitional period. I do hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now!